Hello and welcome to the fifth episode of the I'm So Tired podcast. The podcast where we are so incredibly tired and we try to fight our depression by talking about random pop culture bullshit online for our entertainment and your own entertainment. So let's have some fun, guys. Islam, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm so tired. I'm so
And this is where I
tired.
start talking and cut off
Yeah,
Islam, not let
as
him say
always.
how he's actually doing. But
It's
this week
like
I'm going to let him. How are you doing?
my favorite thing. If we go back to the very first episode, you're like, Islam, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm so tired. Anyways, today we're gonna do the podcast. Like, why did he ask me if he wasn't interested? No, I'm legit. Like, I had
I'm
a
just a
good
bad
dinner.
host. It's not
So
even that I'm not interested. I'm just a bad host.
yeah, no, I
That's
had like a big dinner, so I'm like super tired.
dude. I had two hamburgers.
Mm.
My mum made hamburgers and she made all sorts of bits and pieces that you could put into them, and so I had two of them and a bunch of fries. So
Oh,
yeah,
that sounds so
um,
good.
yeah, it was great. It was great. So what are we talking about today? Today we are, as usual, going through the Night City reports,
Night
which
City
is coming
report.
back this week, and we're also having Islam's full review of Disco Elysium because he's actually beaten the game, right?
Yeah, I beaten it. Yeah, fantastic. That's the review.
Yeah, yeah. But we'll get into it like a little bit.
Yeah.
We've already talked about this game, but we'll talk about it again. And also like the main part of the show will be us reviewing the final episode of I guess Captain America and the Winter Soldier now, and which is a way better title. We were talking about this
Yeah.
before the actual podcast started, but whatever. And the final episode and the show overall and our thoughts on that. So um, let's start with Disco Elysium, I guess. You beat the game. Tell us about it.
Okay, where to be? So Disco Elysium, I talked about it a bit 2 weeks ago, but now that I've beaten it, I'll just go through like the motions real quick. It's a computer RPG, like a CRPG as they're known. You can also play it on PlayStation. The game you
He
play
said
as
very dismissively.
no, you should like okay. So
I'm
regarding
joking.
that, let's go through that first. So after we did our episode, and you were like, "Oh, I'm actually afraid of playing it on console." Friend of the show, Maunus, aka Swagnus,
Mhm.
aka Swaggy, sometimes he's known as, I guess, on stream, talked about how
Yeah,
he beat the entire game on PlayStation. He said he had no issues with it at all. So he was like, "Hey, if you don't have a PC, to you people out there, and you're still interested," he was like, "Yeah, go for the PlayStation version." He played on a PS5, so he played with the DualSense and all that, and he said
yeah,
no issues. So yeah, keep that in mind, everyone.
good,
No,
good.
yeah, Disco Elysium. For me, yeah, it's an RPG, but instead of fighting and building up like fighting prowess, you build up stats that are pertain to social things. So you have four different, or was it five? Yeah, you have your physique, you have your psyche, you have your intellect, and you have your motorics. So basically, you can be like super agile and cool, or you can be like a smart person, or you could be like a super emotional person, like that's like the psyche one, or you can be a physical person, like very strong.
Yeah,
Now, each of these I've tried like, and each of these stats correspond with like a bunch of different things that you can do and different parts of your character's memory. So your character is a detective, and slight spoilers for the opening, but not yeah.
mm.
I guess like it's part of the game, but you're an amnesiac detective who has to solve a murder. You have
Yeah. I mean that's the premise. So
That's the premise. You
not really
have
spoilers.
no idea who you are. No idea at all who you are, why you're here. You don't even know you're a cop. Like it's to that degree. You have no idea what's going on. And that's how
Which makes sense for an RPG because you're building up the character as you go.
which makes sense for an RPG. But the kicker is depending on which. Sorry, the lighting is annoying me right now. Let's do this one instead. So depending on which like stats you choose, your character's inner monologue while you go through the motions change.
Mm.
So, for example, if you're playing a thinker type of character, you'll have like a lot of fun facts pop up because you're smart.
Mm.
So that's kind of like how they do it in that. Now, the game itself, however, it gets interesting because the whole game is conversation based. Like you go around, you interview the perps, trying to figure out, oh, who did this and what did what, and at the same time, you get like a bunch of side quests. Now, that for me, that's where the game actually really showed me how cool it is because the side quests kind of connect with each other, but the game is not explicit of it. But sometimes you can be like, oh, I did this side quest and I met these two characters, and then hours later you will be talking to someone else, and then you will get like bonuses to your conversation because you have information from the other side quest you
That
did.
side quest, yeah.
Yeah. So the whole thing is you never feel like you're wasting your time doing stuff, because some games where they do side quests, it's just like, oh, it's padding. It feels like padding
Yeah.
sometimes. Not here. Every single side quest has its own story, and the stories are pretty cool actually, and how they like relate to the character. Now it took me 30 hours to beat the game.
Which
Uh,
is, for a CRPG isn't that long.
It's almost short for a
Yeah.
CRPG. Yeah. And yeah, 30 hours. And I played as a thinker type character.
Mhm.
So he's like very smart. And just an example of his smarts, right? At one point in the game, so this is like not a slight spoiler, but not really. So at one point, some characters were talking about mics, like microphones. And the thing about your character is sometimes he even forgets like basic concepts. So mic, and then the game does this thing where it just rolls things in the background for you. And one of the things that it rolls is it rolls what's it called? It rolled like an encyclopedia thing, and my character and his inner encyclopedia thought was like, you know of a boxer named Mike Champion or something like that. And then and then my character is like, okay, can you help me maybe figure out who I am? Maybe where I come from? It's like, no, but you know of this boxer now, and now you have this information.
Cool.
That is absolutely useless. And the
Uh,
game, lastly, the game, probably one of the funniest games I've ever, like, I've been
I was
laughing while playing.
just about to ask
Yeah,
because I know the game's funny and I wanted to know how the comedy is. Yeah.
it's hilarious, and it's extremely well written. Like I was so surprised at how well written it was. So well written. From the start to the end, there was not a point where I was feeling like, oh, this was bad, or oh, this was weird. No, everything just fits together nicely. It's
Mm.
like it's written for this game. And honestly, the worst part of this game is I'm actually afraid it's gonna ruin other RPGs for me. Because you know, kind of like how we talk about From Software games, like they're so tight in their mechanics that they sometimes ruin other games. Like
Yeah.
Sekiro has ruined every single sword fighting game out there
Yeah.
because
Yes.
it's so tight.
Yeah.
This did the same thing just with conversations. Like I don't want to converse in any other way in like how this game does it going forward. Like I want more developers to look at this and say, make talking part of the game, make talking part of the like part of the challenge of overcoming whatever it is you're doing, because
Mm.
talking just moves the plot along, but here talk is part of the show, it's part of what makes
Yeah.
the game good.
And
So
I think
yeah,
I think it's fair to say that a lot of games have kind of struggled to tell their stories without just having like cinematics that you just watch, and they're just it's not necessarily just exposition, but the player isn't actually actively part of that exposition and
yeah,
that story. So you're not
yeah,
experiencing the story in the shoes of your character. You're kind of watching it as if it was a movie, and then it goes back to gameplay, and then you're the character again.
and
So yeah,
some games that's okay. Like not all
yeah,
games have to be like I always make fun of the Uncharted series because I don't like it, but
yeah,
you don't play that for the roleplay. You play it because you want the spectacle, and
yeah,
it isn't
exactly.
for me. But if you enjoy it, like more
Mhm,
power to you. I don't want this
exactly.
kind of conversation system in Uncharted. That would be super out of place.
No, that'd be
But
very weird. But
games that really push the whole narrative with choice, your choices matter, and choices and choices.
mm,
This is how you do choice in a video game, because I felt like every single step I took, the the game commented on the fact that I kept running while playing, like because
yeah,
you can walk around. The game commented on that. It was like, oh yeah, I noticed like for a guy your age, you really do like running a lot. I can barely keep up. It's like really to that degree. It's like it really looks into whatever you're
that,
doing and
that
comments on
that's
it.
what I would call some Kojima bullshit,
It has some Kojima bullshit sometimes, but even like sometimes
but
even
in a
more
good
like
way. I mean,
extreme. Yeah, in a good way, in a good way. And we
yeah,
love Kojima here, and I'm so tired.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when Psycho Mantis tells you, oh, so you like saving a lot, don't you? Because you use the save option a
Oh,
lot
perfect.
if you got to him.
Yeah. I
That's
like
the kind of
saying,
thing that gets me. So I think
yeah.
it just like this game feels like it could do a lot of fun stuff like that as
I
well.
think this game is also a great entry point if you've never played CRPGs, because it's not
Mm,
difficult. That's the thing. The only thing that was difficult for me was so I died a lot, but it's because I couldn't figure out how to heal. Because you just have to click the button, but I couldn't figure it out. So on consoles, you just press a button, so that's easy. But no, you have to click a
yeah,
button on mouse and keyboard. So I couldn't figure out how to heal. So sometimes I was like very afraid in some conversations because you have two health bars technically. You have your health and your morale. So depending on what
right.
people do, health or morale goes down. So morale goes down if people like, yeah, you're a bad cop, then you lose morale. It's like something as
So
simple as,
you,
yeah,
so you
sorry.
basically die of depression.
I won't spoil what happens, but kinda, yeah, you lose the
Mhm.
game if you do it that way. On the other
Amazing.
hand, getting damaged also, like you can, if, for example, my character was pretty weak physically, so he didn't have a
Mm.
lot of health, which was hilarious because you can die in the game in the first 2 minutes. Like legitimately, you could just die in the first 2 minutes if you uh, examine one thing and fuck it up. It can kill you, and it's so funny to me how quickly you can die and be like, "Oh, you got a heart attack. Sorry."
Bye.
Bye, and then the game ends, and you're like, "Okay, I guess that was Disco Elysium." But honestly, for me, it's a game that I would recommend to anybody like remotely interested in RPGs.
Mm.
Because again, it's simple. It's not difficult. The game helps you, and the story is great. The characters are great. The writing fantastic. Like I have nothing negative to say. I usually am able to I'm a nitpicker. I like to nitpick stuff. I'm trying to find something to nitpick right now. Okay. Sometimes when you walk around, it's kind of difficult to see like what's up and down because of the perspective. So sometimes
Mm.
you're like, oh, why can't I get up there? And then you realize, oh shit,
Right.
that's on a roof or whatever.
Yeah.
That's my nitpick. Like sometimes it can be difficult to see where you're going. Other than that,
Whatever.
no,
That kind of comes with the genre, though. To
that
be
kind of
fair,
comes
so
with the
you know,
genre exactly.
it's
No, for real,
isometric. So
this this
sometimes.
this game, I'm gonna be thinking about it for a while. I actually think I'm gonna replay it at some point and try
Right.
one of the different paths, like try a different
Because
kind of character.
yeah, I guess that the reason why it's so in brackets short for its genre, it's is probably that there are so many different options of what you can do
Mm,
that if it was longer, the developers would have to like if it was twice as long, they would have had to write 6 times as much.
yeah,
So maybe there's just a limit to how much you can do with that
exactly.
many choices.
Because it has like a bunch of voice line and everything in this version. Because so I played the Final Cut version, which came
Yeah,
out
this year.
in this year, yeah,
I
and
think it
that
was,
version
I don't know, February or something.
March, I believe,
Right.
at the end of March. And this version has like yeah, full voice acting, whereas the original did not have full voice acting, so they voiced
Mm.
everything. And there are so many lines, dude, so many lines in this game, and
Yeah, I've heard there's like a like maybe I'm wrong, but that there was like full books being
a
read
bit.
in the game or something.
I mean, there are books being read, but not like full books being read in game. But I believe they said that it was more words than the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Whoa. Holy shit.
It's insane how much dialogue there's in this game, and how different it is. And
Mm.
to the voice acting's credit as well. Like one thing the game also does that's pretty cool. It's like it actually tackles a lot of things like social injustice, class
Hmm.
struggle, racism. But a cool thing it does, it takes place in a fantasy universe. It's not our world. Like you're in a country called Rivershall.
Mm.
Or was that a city? I forgot. You're in Rivershall.
Yeah.
And that's where like the story takes place. Yeah, Rivershall is the city, not a country. The Islam, you idiot. And it takes place there, and your characters like there's some characters like from some place called Jamrock, and you hear about all these different places. Uh,
Welcome to Jamrock. Sorry.
and that's like a cool thing because like even the police officers and all of that, like it's not based on reality. So when they
Hmm.
talk about like different race struggles and what, it's not based on real life. So it comes off as like an interesting way of looking at it without like pointing fingers at like
Right.
specific races of people, because
Hmm.
it's different, yeah, and it works. Like it's not supposed to work, I guess, but it does work. Like I was so surprised how well it worked and how well it actually like could tangle with these super mature themes. Like there were multiple points in the game where I was like, I, I gasped multiple times when like, oh, I can't believe they're doing this or they're talking about this, and it just handles it in a way that's respectful to a degree. Like if you want to, you can play as a racist. Like you can be
Right. Yeah.
racist in the game, like super racist. Uh, but you don't have to. Like the game gives you a choice, and depending on your character, what you want to be and who you want to be. Uh, so yeah, all in all, Disco Elysium. Again, if you're interested, buy it. And if you're not, I don't know, watch a streamer play it or watch a let's play if you feel like it's too intimidating. But it shouldn't be too intimidating. Like it's not like Baldur's Gate 3. Whereas Baldur's Gate 3, I would be like, are you interested in playing this
Yeah.
sort of game? Then it's for you, but it's like difficult. No, this one's
Mhm.
I won't call it easy, but it's like it's a game that's accessible. At
Right. Yeah.
least, yeah.
Because it's mostly conversation based. I
It's
mean,
mostly conversation based, and even when it, like even the combat, wherever there is combat, and I'm using air
mhm.
quotes, is in like it's in the conversation menu how you react to what you
Right.
want to do. So yeah.
So you get into it
Also, I
quite
want to
easily, right?
highlight this one Steam review I read for the game, which is
Hey.
which was I took meth and I punched the kid. 10 out of 10. Which is, yeah, if you want, you can do meth and go punch a kid if you want to. Which is
Yeah.
great. Like, that's all you need to know. Like, that's how
That's. I
open the
mean,
game is.
if that doesn't sell you on the game, I don't know what will.
I don't know what
So
will.
yeah. Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to this. My new computer can actually run it, so I think even though Magnus is saying it runs well on PlayStation and controls well, I still think it's probably still better on
I would
a
as
mouse,
Yeah,
right?
I tried a bit with my controller just to
Mm.
like for your sake and test it, and I was like, yeah, nope, put it down and picked up
Yeah.
the mouse right back at it again. Because like it's nice to just like move the mouse around while you're playing.
Mm.
Because the way it works is like right mouse click highlights stuff, so it
Mhm.
highlights what you can interact with, and left is interact. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically a two-button game. You don't need you can move around with WASD if you want to,
I
and
mean, yeah,
use
but I
and
wouldn't.
and use
So
left shift, Hugo. Left shift, you can use it to run as well. So the left shift is the one where your pinky lands when you yeah,
uh-huh.
that's left shift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know where it is
Okay,
now.
good.
Yeah.
It's right above CTRL. I'm sorry.
Jesus. It's the one that says block fn on my keyboard.
It says what?
It says block fn.
What's
Left
block
shift. I have no idea. Block function, I guess.
block function? Okay, you can
Yep.
send me a picture after the
I'm
show.
gonna send you a picture afterwards. So yeah, that was Disco Elysium. Looking
Yeah.
forward to playing it. I'm definitely gonna get into this eventually. Once I finish the game that I'm playing, which is Cyberpunk 2077. So this is I guess episode 2, 3 of the Night City report, if we want to call it that.
Inshallah 1.2.
Inshallah 1.2, which is now at 1.21, and it's
Ooh.
interesting because the 1.2 was supposed to be, oh, this is the giant patch that actually kind of fixes the game, and it was 45 gigabytes, and then like a week later there was a 1.21 patch which was 25 gigabytes. So
Jesus Christ.
yeah, it's occupying half the hard drive on my PlayStation.
Do you
Not gonna
think this
lie,
game will ever be finished?
I do, but it's going to be at the end of the year. I think it's going to be whenever the actual next gen version comes out will be when the game is, quote unquote complete. Although I think there's some issues with the game that are just at this point they're there and they're not going to be completely fixed.
Actually, I read like they were talking about the financial earnings and such of Cyberpunk, so it didn't sell much in quarter 1 for obvious reasons.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, but at launch it sold like
yeah, and that's the
7
thing.
million
It
copies or
has
whatever.
sold
So
13 million copies,
Jesus.
and they
Yeah.
only refunded 30,000 of those copies got refunded. And apparently, the way they're working at it now is, I think it was 40%. Oh, thanks, Joe. Joe came with tea. Thanks, babe.
Got them
40%.
teasing chat.
Put them teas in chat. Teas in chat. So 40% is working on fixing bugs going forward,
Mm-hmm.
and 60% is working on
DLC.
DLC, which is gonna be free DLC in the
Yep.
beginning, and then it's gonna move over to the like
Hmm.
expansion passes.
Yep.
So I hope they kind of find a good base because like, and we've talked about this a bit, but you and I are like the only two people in our friend circle that actually like this game.
Yeah. To get into it,
Yeah,
I think it took me a while to really get into the game because I don't know, I at first I had been playing a lot of games, so I was a little burnt out, and then I had a lot of university work piling on at the same time, so I just didn't have a lot of time to play it. But these past like 3 or 4 days, I've played more of the game, and I think I've played a total of like 6 or 7 hours at this point, and I'm really into it. Like I can see the issues. Like
yeah.
I'm encountering a few bugs. The game hasn't crashed on me, but it has frozen once. Um, and also we're gonna get into the gameplay. I think there's some things in the gameplay that I don't think work as well as they should. But that being said, for me the setting is just amazing. Just driving around the city is I don't know. It's a joy for me. I think all the music has so much character to it. Even the music that you don't like, it's like yeah, but it fits this world. There's a reason why it's there. I think the aesthetic is so strong, and despite the fact that it's not even in its best version, could like on PlayStation 5, it is at 60, and it's pretty rock solid until you get into some combat encounters. Sometimes there are some dips, but it's nothing terrible. It's always playable. And the resolution is, I think, upscaled to it's whatever. I think I read an article that it was something above 180p. It's not that high res, but it looks great. Like the atmosphere and the design is so good that it makes up for some of the technical shortcomings. And also I think the game story wise has gotten a lot of criticism of how it's written. But because a lot of people say, oh, the dialogue is super edgy and constantly over the top, but I I agree. Like it's true that it's edgy and over the top, but to me it completely fits the vibe and the style of the world that they're creating. It is an over the top kind of setting, so the people who are having to live through these rough streets are very over the top, and um, GTA has over the top dialogue and edgy dialogue, but it fits that world that they create for that game, and that doesn't get criticism for it. I think it's pretty much the same for this one. Um, so what did I actually do in the game? I got through basically the whole intro section, which is like 5 hour intro, but it's still kind of an intro section. It's really good though. Basically, the section is where you have to plan this big heist that you are hired for by this fixer called Dexter Deshawn,
What a
who's
cool
this
name.
big.
This is,
He's a cool character.
yeah.
He's like this huge black guy with like golden sunglasses, and one of his arms is just a golden bionic arm. It's
So
amazing. Like
cool.
the
Oh,
design is so cool.
I'm such a
Um,
sucker for this kind of stuff. Honestly, I'm
yeah,
like, oh,
I
it's
love
so
this
cool.
sort of crap. Yeah, it's amazing. And he basically hires you as V, who I chose the corpo thing path, life path or whatever
Mm.
it's called, and he hires you and Jackie, who's your friend, to basically pull off this giant heist, steal this weird chip, biochip they call it, and you're never very clear on what is on the chip. I mean, if you've seen the trailers, you can probably expect what it is, but your character doesn't know. So that's the point of view from which you're playing. So all my playtime, I've focused on the main story because I wanted the main story to actually get going a little bit before I really looked into the side quests and other things in the game. The only side quest I tried doing is one of the one where you have to box people, and I got my ass handed to me,
Oh,
man. You gotta get
by the
yeah
twins that aren't
by the
twins.
twins. They destroyed me. Like you have to get used to the combat. And also, I found out for some reason I had started the game on hard. I'm
Oh,
not sure why. I was like, I'm taking so much damage. There's something is weird here.
oh,
Like this
that's
game
weird.
is not supposed to be this hard. And I bumped it down to normal because this is how I play first person games. So whatever. That was my mistake. But so I met Judy and Evelyn Parker, who are really cool characters, and I did my first um, cyber dance, as they call it, which is essentially
Brain dance, you mean?
brain dance, yeah, which is where you go into cyberspace and experience somebody else's memory, and you can kind of analyze the inside of this memory and look for clues, and it's really cool. It's kind of like a detective mode, but it's framed on this idea that you put this cyber deck on your head and you go into this brain dance where you just experience somebody else's memory, um, who had, of course, they also had a device and recorded this, which is funnily enough, this is pretty much the plot of the movie Strange Days. So if you know Strange Days, that's the movie. It even looks the same. The things that you put on your heads. So
No, I did not
interesting.
know that.
Yeah, it's a cyberpunk movie from the 90s. Good
Hmm.
movie. So yeah, I met Evelyn, I met Judy. I found it really interesting, all the build up to the heist, where you kind of have to decide whose side you're on, whether you want to kind of betray Dex, whether you want to use the what's she called, the corpo lady, to, because I chose the corpo side. So I met this corpo lady who kind of gives you money to go buy this robot that you're going to need for the heist, but you don't have to use her money. You can choose not to. Uh, the money that she gives you is in a chip that has a virus. You can choose to remove the virus, which is what I did, and use her money. And then it. I'm not sure whether the game actually has that much choice in it, as we were talking about Disco Elysium. We'll see as we go along, but I think within a narrative that is pretty set for what it is, the small choices do make a little bit of difference. Because the encounter with the Maelstrom at the beginning did feel like if I hadn't removed this virus, these guys would have all gotten mad at me, and I would have had to fight them or something. So
That part you just described is is actually a very interesting part because that's actually one of the few places where there are different paths you can take and they're
yeah,
not like set in stone, as you said. Because my first playthrough, I didn't even know you could remove the virus.
yeah,
But so I just went in, I gave them the money. I was like, "Fuck!" I didn't know there was a virus on it even. And then they got hacked, and then
yeah,
the Maelstrom gang got angry at me. So that's actually one way to do it. Another way is like when the dude, the Maelstrom ganger, is like, sit down on the couch. Because you can sit and then you're like, Jackie, sit down. You can
yeah,
choose to not sit down and just stand
yeah.
and wait and wait and wait. And at one point, he's going to be like, you know what, fuck this. And he's going to start shooting at you. So there's another path you can take. And it's one of the few moments in the game where it actually does this branching path thing. And it's kind of
Mhm.
cool. And I don't mind it like circling back to the main plot. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people forget when we talk about choices in game. Like you cannot expect the story to fundamentally
Yeah.
change, do a 180.
Hmm.
Like it's still like gonna be a story, but just gonna be your choices impact the story. And this is like one of the parts where I think it does it well.
Hmm.
So originally though, Hugh, you remember the E3 demo, like the original gameplay video?
I really didn't really look at those. I would just look, oh, this looks amazing. I don't want to actually see anything, and I just kind
You
of
should
skipped
go
it.
back and watch it because it's that
But I did
specific.
see,
It's
I
that
do remember
mission.
that you could do that, or that whole section, like completely stealth or something like that in the E3 demo,
In
something
the
like that.
E3 demo, the way they went about it was okay. You're gonna meet what's her name, the lady from the company.
The corporation, yeah.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name. She
yeah.
gets arrested in my playthrough, so
Oh,
she's
she
gone.
didn't. Yeah, she didn't
Yep.
in mine.
Yeah,
And
interesting.
then she was so happy that I used the virus, and I talked to her, and suddenly we had sex, and then like I didn't accept it. I just talked to her, and then it was a sex scene. I was like, remove this. This is what I
Okay, this
asked
is
for.
happening, I guess.
This is happening, I guess. No, but I think they do in that version though, like the original E3 demo,
Hmm.
was at one point during the conversation, and that's in both the E3 demo and the full game. The bodyguard is like, "Are you alone?" And then you can choose to lie and say that you
Yeah.
aren't, and he's gonna do the lie detector thing. It doesn't like really make sense because in the original one, you were also supposed to like correspond with Jackie and be like, "Jackie, join me and hide out,"
Yeah.
or "Jackie, leave. I'll do it on my own." So it
But
seemed like they had like a
couldn't
bunch of different, like
couldn't
more
you
stuff.
do that? Are you sure
No,
you can't do that?
you
Because
cannot. I
you
played
can
through.
choose, because you can choose to go talk to Jackie before you go to the
Yes,
lady.
but it doesn't. You cannot tell
Oh,
Jackie to come with you or leave because Jackie's
right.
gonna be like, "Oh, hey, hey, padre, whatever." I don't know. I can't do a
Yeah,
stereotypical Mexican.
I'm a female V, so he
Yeah.
calls me Chica.
Oh yeah, Chica.
Yeah,
I like Jackie.
I look. Hey, I'm gonna say this.
Yeah.
Jackie in the E3 demos and trailers, I was like, oh my god, this guy is gonna be so annoying, because they only show the really, really brash, edgy side of him. But I actually like. Okay, spoilers for, I guess, for the end of the heist that you pull. Um, it all goes to shit. You're supposed to basically steal this chip from this the son of the leader of this giant worldwide corporation, the
Cool
Arasaka
sequence,
Corporation.
by the way. What a cool sequence.
Such a cool sequence, yeah, where you're hiding, amazing.
Yeah.
And but the son, it all goes to shit because the father then shows up, and the son kills his father, and the whole corporation goes in, it becomes a mess, and then you have to like jump out of a window and into a roof and hide. And Jackie gets shot, and eventually he dies. Um, and I found myself, even after only like 5 hours of play, being really attached to that character and feeling really bad that he was gone. Like I was thinking, oh, we're gonna be working together and be buddies for the rest of the game, and it turns out no, he's just dead. And there was after he died, there was another cool choice that you have to make. You're in the cab. Basically, you got back to Dexter Deshawn to give him the chip, essentially, because you finished the job, even though it was it went quite badly. Um, and you can choose whether to make because the cab is controlled by an AI, which is fun.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
you can choose to make the cab bring Jaggy either to his family, to Misty, who's the girlfriend, or you can just say, "Wait a minute, keep him here. I'm gonna go to speak to Dexter and then come back, and I'll decide what to do with Jackie's body then." But then it turns out when you go speak to Dexter, Dexter betrays you and shoots you in the head. That's the last scene I've seen with V. So obviously she isn't dead, um, but so you're never gonna get to go back to Jackie and choose what to do with his remains. I guess I'm not sure. Maybe you will, but
Yeah.
that was another small choice that I found fun in the
Because
moment. I don't know
yeah.
how different the game is actually if you make a different choice, but in the moment that you're making it, it feels like cool that you're getting to choose that.
I know what happens to the body because I remember
Yeah.
looking this up. Like, depending on the choice, the body ends up wherever you do. But
Yeah.
I know that doing it like this, at least, like if you chose, for example, that was when I said like, oh, you're gonna miss the ofrenda scene, and if you send him
Mm.
to the family, you're gonna have this like one of like my favorite scenes of the game, which is like them mourning Jackie, and then you like you meet Jackie's
Yeah.
mom again. Like you see her in the opening thing, Jackie's
Yeah,
mom, real quick.
there's like a montage,
A
yeah.
montage. That's the word I was looking for. Thanks, montage. And they're doing the opening montage. And you meet her, then you meet her again, and they talk, and it's actually like a nice scene because like whenever this game has heart, it has heart, and this is one of those
Yeah.
moments. But yeah, you're not gonna experience that moment, so
Yeah, and that's
because the
that's
family
a
couldn't give them.
shame,
Yeah,
but I think like in the moment it made sense for me to do that because I was
yeah,
like, look, I'm gonna decide later. I don't know what to do with his body now. I'm just gonna go finish this job and then we'll figure it out later. But turns out you get betrayed and shot. So I don't know what's gonna happen with that. And I thought it felt cool in the moment to make that choice because like as soon as he shot me in the head, I knew my character wasn't dead. But my first thought was like, oh shit, I'm never like Jackie's in the car. I wanted to do something with his remains. I guess so. I missed that opportunity. Um, and then the game, of course, cuts to 2023, and you get the first flashback sequence,
mm,
which I actually didn't play it. I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck is happening? And then I heard Keanu's voice, who I obviously recognize because yeah, big Matrix fan. You know me. I hear Keanu's voice, and I recognize him in a second. And I was like, fine, I'm gonna stop playing now because I only had 10 minutes to play because I had
yeah,
to go pick up my brother from school, and I was like, no, I want to experience this and enjoy
yeah.
it
The
because I
next
was like,
part
this is
is
cool.
like the next part, specifically. That's also when I message you. I was like, the music in the next part is
Oh, yeah.
legitimately like the original soundtrack, like the score of
Hmm.
this game,
Yeah.
so
is
freaking like
so
it's the
good.
same
It's
like
so
team
good.
that did the Witcher 3 score, which is also
Hmm.
amazing. And you
Completely
can tell
different,
like
by the way.
yeah, completely different. But the next part, like if you listen, you can imagine it being in like a you can imagine like almost like a cyber future version of some of the Witcher
Yeah,
music. Like it's so good.
I'm
Uh,
excited. The music's been great so far.
and also
Um,
here's the part because after this point, like after the heist, the game opens up, so you have the entire
yeah,
map to explore. Again, I've said this a million times before, and this is for everyone. The game throws so much side content at you, and some of it sadly is that like padding type side quest,
yeah,
but just like there to fill up some space and do some, and
hmm
it's so it bugs me so much that they filled the game with so much of this shit because right next to it, some of the stuff is actually good,
mm,
but you have to like, and you never know if you're gonna get one of the good ones because some of them actually flesh out the world in a cool way. Because I know you've probably missed some. Like there's the one with the father and the son and the brain dance thingy and the gang, and it's like, oh, this is cool. Or yeah, or then there's the one with the I'm not even gonna say it, but I know like that one specific side mission thing about. I remember it was so cool. I remember texting Jackson. I was
yeah,
like, dude, have you? Because he was playing the game as well. And Jackson liked it. Like he will pretend he didn't like it. He was like, fuck, I really like this game. I remember, and he played it on Stadia, so I think also that like made it more enjoyable
oh,
for him because
yeah,
he didn't have like a buggy experience.
mm.
But I texted him. I was like, dude, have you done the mission with the thing and such? And he was like, oh yeah, that's so content. I guess that's what the kids say nowadays, content.
Oh my God.
I was like, yeah, this is content. I just jump in. I like to learn new slang. I was like, yeah, this is content. It's like, it's one of those moments like a lot of games have like side quests that are forgettable, and this one has a bunch that are forgettable.
Yeah,
Really a bunch that are forgettable. But
but it also has
ev-
some really good ones.
every once in a while, like the one thing about sneaks up on you in a way and just wow, it's just like one big wow. I can't believe this
Mm,
game did this. So
right.
yeah, I really hope you get to experience that specific one.
I Yeah, I looked up and apparently most of the side quests you can't miss. Like you can actually find them. So I'm going to play like I'm gonna mess around with some side quests and see what kind I like, what kind I don't like, and we'll see
Mm.
how it goes. But I'm enjoying like just being in the world so much that even a less good side quest I will probably like praying through. Um, so I've talked all about story and setting
Mm.
and dialogue and
Now let's
stuff,
talk
which
gameplay.
is
Yeah.
the gameplay is I think the gameplay is where I have a few more problems with the game. Although I think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's like a disaster. I think it's mostly pretty good. I think it needed a little bit more time in the oven to be fleshed out. I think a few of the mechanics are a bit like for me personally, the game told me, oh, you can play as a stealth character, and I was like, I'm going to play as a stealth character, and I'm just gonna be doing stealth and hacking for most of the game. That's what I like. I'm gonna focus on light weapons, so I'm probably gonna get a silenced weapon as soon as I can, uh, that kind of stuff. But like the stealth, I think is pretty fun until you're doing it. I think doing hacks while you're stealthing, or like doing the ping thing where you see a camera and you use it to ping and it tells you where all the enemies and all the other cameras are. That's all stuff that I really enjoy. Um, but I don't understand. Like this game does what stealth games did in 10 years ago, which is whenever you get spotted by one character, everybody else knows where you are, and it's very difficult to get back into stealth. You have to kind of leave the area and come back, which I've
Yes.
found to be a bit annoying. I don't know if I can unlock some hacks or some weird perks or something that allow me to go back into stealth later. Uh, but for
I
me
can
personally,
remember.
wanting to play as a stealth character, what? Sorry.
I can remember.
Yeah,
If you
but
can.
whatever. Regardless, like for me as a stealth character, it did feel a bit annoying because you are forced into combat at that point. Like there was no way to get through. For example, in when I was leaving for the heist from the hotel that you're in, I got caught and I was stuck in combat. I could not. There was no way for me to just go back into stealth, and that felt a little bit annoying. And I also think the combat overall is probably the weakest part of the gameplay. Like the shooting's fine, the guns feel okay, but it's never a highlight. It's I think it's serviceable. It's kind of like that kind of 7 out of 10 combat that I guess you can expect from what is more of an RPG, but because it looks so much like a shooter and the controls are so shooter like, you're kind of expecting some better feedback from the guns. You're kind of expecting even just like it, if I hit a guy on the head, I my instinct is he should be dead, and you keep giving him headshots and it says critical hit, and he's alive. um that being said, again, I was on hard by mistake, so I bumped it down to normal, and on normal it feels better, to be honest. Like on hard, the enemies are really bullet spongy.
This game should not have been a first person shooter. This
Yeah,
game should have been third person first and foremost, and it
yeah,
should have used the fact that it's so funny to me because like the original Cyberpunk 2020 game is a pen and paper RPG.
yeah,
Why did they think, hey, let's make it a first person shooter?
yeah.
Because I felt like one like CD Projekt. Okay, let me try and collect my thoughts. Witcher
Mm,
3. A lot of people like are like, oh, the combat in Witcher 3 is so bad. I feel like those people haven't really looked into what the combat actually is
mhm,
in that game. Because for me, like I loved fighting in that game because it was like a
mm,
dance. Like you're dodging, you're swinging your sword around, and you're using all the extra stuff you get with it. Like
yeah.
you're planning ahead, especially like Witcher 3 on Death March is so much fun. Like on the highest
Mm,
difficulty, it's so much fun because like every single fight is like, oh, I have to do this, and now I'm gonna go. I have to fight this troll, and no trolls are weak to this sign, and no, they're
yeah.
weak to this oil, and they're weak to this, and you do the whole preparation thing. You go in, and there's like, for me, it was like kind of the thing with you were talking about during the post show of the last Amstel time, with you enjoying the thing with Red Dead. With oh, I'm gonna grab the gun from my
Mhm,
horse, and I'm gonna sit down and make the coffee. That's me in Witcher 3, and
yeah,
I kind of wish that was here as well in
yeah,
Cyberpunk, because for me at least, I don't feel like I'm ever preparing. I'm just like running in, sneaking,
yeah.
using my silence pistol. And by the way, that stealth is way easier once you get a silence weapon. Trust me.
Oh yeah,
You can just buy a, like an extension and put it on any
yeah,
gun,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
honestly. So
It's better. Yeah.
yeah, it's a mod. But yeah, for me, making it first person just it's
I
weird
don't
to me.
I don't
It's a weird
mind
choice.
it being first person. I just wish that it it really allowed you to pick a play style, um, and supported that play style a little more. Because like the fact that you can't go back into stealth is, and I'll keep talking about this, but it is kind of a big deal if you're into stealth games, because like good stealth games have mechanics that allow you to hide again and then keep
Hmm.
stealthing. Like you're not forced to do combat
But I feel like
ever if you
that's to
don't want
my
to.
point. Like you can tell they're not good at this like super real time actiony thing. That's
Yeah.
more to my point as to
Yes.
why
And
didn't
I
they
think
make it more RPG than action? And I think it's because they wanted to hit. That's you know that
a
joke
larger
I've
demographic, yeah.
you know that joke I've been having on Twitter the last couple of days where I just say some gatekeeping is okay. This is the kind of thing that I mean. Like you cannot please everyone, and you should never
Yeah.
try to please everyone. Because this
Mm.
is what happens when you try to please everyone: is like you get something that's half baked. Because oh,
Yeah.
we need to make sure that the people who don't like RPGs like it, and the people who like RPGs are supposed to like it, and the stealth players are gonna like it, and the melee characters are gonna like it, and when the system
Yeah.
isn't built around this, like you get a bunch of half-baked stuff.
But that being said, I think the game feels pretty good to play. It's just my thing is that each part of the gameplay, each different option of the gameplay, just seems like it needs a bit more fine tuning.
Yeah,
And I do think if the game had been delayed 6 or 7 months, it could have been.
oh,
I know, I
I
know,
don't think so. I
I
think
do, I do. I think like it's not that big of a difference to make the game allow you to be more of a stealth character, for example. There's some minor changes. The game at its core is built like a shooter, so some combat is going to be in there, but it's like I play this game and it looks and it feels like I'm playing Dishonored. But then as soon as I get caught, I realize, oh, this is not
this is not true.
Dishonored at all. Like, because that game, it does the similar thing that where you can really choose what you want to do. Like, you
Hmm.
can play that game as a shooter, You can play that game as a melee combat game. You can play the game completely stealthily. You can kill everyone. You can kill no one. And this game feels like it wants to be that, but it doesn't really fully have the grasp of it. And I think when you talk about Witcher 3, I think what a lot of people say, oh, the combat isn't that great in this game. What they're referring to is the live action, like the real time action part. It's like the actual just the basic combat mechanics, dodge, attack, light attack, strong attack, are quite simple. And if you don't play on a harder difficulty, I agree with you. I also played on a harder difficulty for Witcher 3, and it made the game so much better. If you play on a lower difficulty, you can just kind of get through the whole game by just dodge, attack, and it does get a little uninteresting after a while. And but that game, on the other hand, because it's more of an RPG, it really shines when you do put it on a higher difficulty and do use all the preparation. That's what makes the game very good and very interesting combat wise. But this game doesn't really have, like, if you put it on hard, it's just like the enemies are more bullet spongy.
I agree.
And it's like
100% agree with like everything you're saying
yeah.
about that. Like there's no disagreement to be found, and it.
So that being said, I'm really into this game. Like I really, really enjoy it. I don't really care whether the gameplay is as perfect as it could be because I like the setting so much and I enjoy being in the world and I'm enjoying the characters and the story. So
Yeah,
you know,
did you get?
I'm just like I just feel like this game you delay it a year and it's a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. You don't delay it a year and it's like are they I think I can feel where in summer of 2020 the shareholders said, or the bosses in CD Projekt said, we're releasing the game in December, so do whatever you want to put out a product that kind of works. And I think that's where they cut all the corners and kind of made it more of a simple shooter and took out some of the narrative choices and some of the RPG elements. Like, but that being said, again, I think with the patches and once it runs well, if you like the setting and if you like the characters, you're going to enjoy it regardless.
Fun fact. During the initial like whole PR thing, like not way before the game released, they kept calling the game the RPG of a dark future, the role-playing game of and that's because like that's the original tagline of the original tabletop game, so it's like a reference as well. And up to release, as soon as they actually we were nearing release, they changed that. It was actually the adventure action game of a dark future.
Because it's barely an RPG.
It's not.
Let's be honest.
It's barely an RPG. And that, to me, is... that's the biggest, like, that sucks. The fact that they had to change it up so much during the end. And you can tell, like, just like you said, they're cutting corners left and right.
Oh, yes. With the gameplay specifically, there's so much.
The gameplay specifically,
this is, like, even the upgrade mechanics and the perks and all that stuff, I can tell there's a lot of ideas in there. Actually, at the beginning, I found them a bit overwhelming, but once you actually look at the menus and stuff, it's not that complicated to just navigate the RPG mechanics. Yeah. And I can tell there's a lot of ideas in there, but I can also already tell that whatever I upgrade through that, it's not going to make that big of a difference in my playstyle. And I think like the weapons that I have equipped and the way that I choose to approach the game is what's going to make a difference. Like the RPG mechanics are going to change the game, but not as much as they could.
The perks are more... actually, no. Because the perks, like some of them actually do some very fun stuff, especially when you're over at the hacking stuff, for example. Like you have one where, if I hack this person, there's a chance that the hacking will move over to the next person, and then you can suddenly do multi-hack set. They do actually do some fun stuff. For me, at least, the problem is none of these abilities are like, wow, I finally got this ability, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, it's passive skills mostly, which is why it feels like you're not actually progressing or doing something cool. But the game actually does do a few cool things. And I feel like for me, especially when the gameplay becomes more... If you want a big tip to make the gameplay more fun, save up for the double jump ability.
Yeah.
At the Ripper Duck. Save up for that ability. That ability alone changes the game. That and the slow motion dodge thingy makes the game so much more fun.
Right.
Because then suddenly you feel like this futuristic cyber ninja that is like jumping around, and then again, I'm so glad you compared it to Dishonored because it's kind of like
Yeah.
Dishonored light sometimes, but
Yeah.
a very light, very like almost a
Yeah.
bad version of Dishonored because Dishonored is
Yes.
Dishonored like
Dishonored is just perfect.
it's
In
fucking
just
amazing.
gameplay wise,
Yeah,
it's perfect.
it's so
It's
good.
in what it's trying to
I'm
do.
so
Yeah.
excited for Deathloop, but
Oh yeah.
but in this like it's almost like
It's
the ideas are there. That's what's most
exactly.
frustrating. The ideas are there.
Mhm. You can feel what they were going for, um, and where they didn't really have time to really complete it. But yeah, again, I'm having a good time. I think I'm going to continue to have a good time, and yeah, so that's Cyberpunk, I guess.
The Night City Report.
The Night City Reports, episode 3, 4, whatever it is. I've already lost count. We're at 4, and I've lost count. So that's my state of mind. That's how tired I am.
I'm so tired, man.
Yeah, hell yeah. Next up, we have, of course, our main topic for this week, which is our review of Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
The
or Captain
Falcon and
America.
the Winter Soldier.
Sorry, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or Captain America and the Winter Soldier, as it's called in the end credits. Oh, spoilers. Of the final episode. So yeah, I think we should start from the final episode and then kind of move into our overall review, overall thoughts on the show as a whole. So yeah, how did you feel about the final episode? Do you think it was a satisfying conclusion?
It was a better conclusion than WandaVision. And
Yes.
what I mean by that is, I feel like the action was better. That being said, that doesn't mean the action was good.
Yeah, that's Marvel for you.
That's Marvel. And there were like multiple times where I was thinking, is that is that CGI Captain America flying around right now? Because there were
Yeah.
multiple points where it's like, that's a CGI character.
Yeah.
That's not Anthony Mackie in the suit right now. It's a
Nope.
CGI blob flying around.
And
And
also just like
oh,
there's so many like weird jump cutting and
so,
close-ups and stuff.
so
It's like
many jump cutting. It's just
yeah.
flying around all over the place. I'm like, what?
Yep.
And the few moments that work are actually when they pump up their brakes and
Yep.
it's Cap saving people.
Mhm.
Like where he saved the dude from the helicopter and he felt that
Yeah,
and
that
put
was
up the
great.
shield and the wings as well.
That was so cool.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is cool. Or where he
And even
we scanned the lady in the helicopter. He was like, "Oh, I know you're you can fly. Okay, count to 5," and then he flies through and
yeah.
throws the guy
And
in the
he like
Hudson
he
River.
hacks her phone and tells her to put an earbud in
Yeah,
so he can talk to it. Like that was cool. Those
that's
were
the
some
cool
cool
stuff.
moments. Yeah.
But as soon as the fighting, like with the
Yeah,
flag smashers, and then
the fighting is whatever.
John Walker is there, and then they're fighting.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on right
No idea.
now? It's just punching, punching, punching,
And it's
and
always
shaking
like
him.
either a parking lot or a random street or like a government building. Like they're not very creative with where they set their fights.
So my favorite MCU character, Batroc, was in this episode as well. You know, the French
Right.
guy that nobody
The
knows,
French guy. Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah. The
nobody
French
knows
guy.
except for me. And I'm so excited whenever he's on screen, and he was on screen this episode. I was like, it's Batroc. You should everyone after you watch this episode. Go Google Batroc the Leaper and like watch how he looks in the comic, and you'll understand why I'm so fascinated with this character. Because he's like this stereotypical French person with a big mustache
Oh my
in the
god.
comics.
Batroc
Anyway,
the Leaper.
yeah,
Okay.
Batroc the Leaper. So,
Fuck.
but he's fighting Batroc in the fucking
Oh
building,
no.
right? He's fighting him in the
Yeah.
building. And I have no idea what was going on in that fight. And then suddenly he left and I was like, why is he leaving? What is going I felt
Yeah.
like an old person watching someone play Fortnite because I was like, I have no idea
Yes.
what is going on. There's
And
so
then
much.
like at one point they're trying to kidnap the leaders of the what's it called, the GRC, the Global Repatriation
Yeah.
Council, and then but then they're running in a corridor, and then there's a guy putting like a lock against like the vans.
I didn't
But then they
understand that.
meet up again, and then but Sharon kills one, but he doesn't stop them all. It's like I think the first 20 minutes of action is quite confusing, and
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a bit much. Like it was a bit
yeah,
much, and
too much going on.
I, and we kind of both knew it going in, didn't we? Like,
Yes,
I,
yes,
I,
that,
I was, it was just that feeling, the gut feeling, like, oh, we're gonna have the Marvel third act. I was like, and I really
yeah,
went in it with like, I tried to be positive,
hell yeah,
because you know me specifically, like, I love these movies and shows
yeah,
and now shows, I guess. So
yeah,
I love the MCU so much, and even I'm like, yeah, this is bad.
yeah. I think I don't know what it is because like the show, this show specifically has had good action
Mm,
so far.
yeah,
Not all of it, but
not all of
most
it,
of it
but
has
yeah,
been pretty good. But for some reason, sorry, they can never figure out how to make a final fight that is interesting.
yeah,
Or rather, I think they feel like they have to have a lot of fighting, and I think this show could have ended with a few action sequences and have been fine.
yeah.
Like we didn't need to have all this hand-to-hand combat. Like first he's fighting against Batroc the Leaper or whatever,
Yes.
and then he goes on the ground and he's fighting against somebody else, and then Bucky's fighting, and then they're all just doing karate, and it's kind of like, okay, we've seen this in 1,000
Yeah.
films. Like, can we move on to the story?
Yeah, and I
Because
kind of
that's why
wish.
we're here. Like,
And the thing is, like, whenever they do some cool, I guess, Captain Cap stuff. I guess he's Captain American. I have to get used to it.
yes,
Whenever they
we'll,
do
we'll talk about it.
whenever they do cool Cap stuff, it is actually cool. The
Yeah, it
problem
is.
is, it's so far in between. Because whenever,
Yeah.
like, for example, he was fighting Bathork, and he did
Mm.
oh, was it Kali? I forgot. But
It was Kali, yeah.
yeah, and he used the fucking rockets or whatever that makes him
Mhm.
fly as to propel himself forward with the ship. I
Yeah,
was like, yes, this is how you're supposed to show this character fighting. Him using the tech because he isn't a super soldier. But
yeah. And in
no,
the beginning, they're just teasing you because, like, he's fighting Batroc or whatever, and he's not using the wings.
yeah,
He's
it's
just
like,
jumping around.
and
Like,
he's getting his
that's
ass
the
kicked,
point,
and it's like,
isn't? Yeah. Why are you not using the wing? Like,
and
you can't fight this guy, but then later you can keep up with the super soldier
yeah,
because you're using the wings. Like, why
and
don't you
and
just use them
and
all the
it's so
time?
weird to me because this was, dude. You know what drove me insane?
Yeah.
This was his big debut.
Yeah.
And he's
And the
getting his
first thing they have him do is
and
just
he's
in
getting
a
his
room
ass kicked
punching
by
a guy.
Batroc. He's getting his ass handed by Batroc. That's not how you debut the new Captain America. And for me, that was like, oh, that's such a like. Just show him winning. At this point, this dude has had his ass handed to
Yeah.
him in so many movies. He's
Yeah.
been ridiculed by every. He's the partner. And now he
Yeah.
finally gets he's Captain America. He's the
Yeah.
hero now. And then he gets his ass kicked by Batroc.
Yeah. The
That
French
was weird
guy,
to me.
as
The French guy.
everyone who's into Marvel movies knows him.
Yeah.
But that being said, so I think that's the negative
Yeah.
overall of the
Yeah.
episode. Because like for me personally, I think story wise,
Mm.
it was quite good.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good worthy conclusion to a show that I really enjoyed overall. I liked his entrance. I liked some of the ways that they used the new Wakandan suit.
Yeah.
It's really cool that he has what's it called, vibranium wings now as well,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
amazing. Like because he's complementing the shields with the wings.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
that was
and
all
also
fun.
the costume is
Good.
the exact
Yeah,
one he's wearing in the comics. Like
yeah.
it's
It looks the same.
they didn't even try to like MCU it or whatever because you could
Mhm.
tell like they never do the like one
One
to
to
one.
one. Yeah,
This is what I was so surprised. Like this is one to one the suit he's wearing in the
yeah.
comics when he
And
becomes
it
Captain
looks
America.
good. Like
Yeah, I like
there are
it.
some bits that are a little goofy, but
Like
it's
the
like
ears, for example, a bit goofy.
yeah.
That is
But
here's his
like
thing.
it's a
It's a
superhero
superhero.
costume,
Yeah,
so
exactly. It's
yeah,
a superhero costume. Like
yeah.
they're all goofy. Like don't give me
It's
that.
yeah, it's
Oh,
supposed to be goofy. That's okay.
I think Captain America's suit looks weird. He's dressed in the stars and stripes. Okay,
Yeah, of
it's
course he
weird.
looks weird.
Every superhero costume is goofy, and that's okay. Like that's
Yeah,
part of the charm. That's
that's
part
part
of
of
the
the point.
charm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know me. I like colors. I like when the suits are colorful.
Oh, then you love this suit, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, story wise, I thought the conclusion was satisfying. I really liked how they paid off Sam's role in this. The big speech that he gives at the end is it is a little on the nose, but it was very good. I enjoyed it.
Yes, it's on the nose, but that's what
Yeah,
Captain America is. Like Captain
it
America
is
is on the
exactly.
nose.
Yeah,
It's those like big
absolutely.
speeches that are supposed to inspire hope. But honestly, okay, now I'm gonna talk from like a personal like point of view. Him
Hmm.
saying like, "Oh, stop calling them terrorists." Like you don't even try to understand why this is happening.
Yeah,
That hit me. That
that
hit
was
me a
great.
lot
That was
because
a
like
good line. Yeah,
especially like as a Palestinian Muslim, like I've been called terrorist. Like this
yeah,
is, and it, like it's horrible. And when people like see the news and see all the things that are going on to world, it's always like colored in these like terms that he even talked
mhm.
about, like terrorist, thug. I forgot what the third term he used was, but he was talking about all
Yeah,
these
revolutionary or something.
revolutionary or
But he
something.
was talking about labels that we assign to people before we try to understand them,
Yeah,
basically.
and that's the thing that we never actually try to understand where all this hatred comes from, all this violence, because this violence that we see isn't like necessarily the answer. Like the show makes it a great point that Kali's going around it the wrong way. I've seen a lot of
Yeah,
people be angry at how Kali got treated in the show. I feel like no, this was the natural progression of this
yeah, that's
person
the point. Yeah, that's the point
because
of the
she's
character.
like yeah, an angry teenager that nobody is listening to, and she has power.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, she's gonna go up in the deep end by the end, and that's what she like. Even her followers don't necessarily agree with her. They're
Hmm.
like, yeah,
Yeah, I guess at this point we're this far in, we have to follow
one
a.
word, am I right? It's
Yeah,
like,
one people.
and I feel like for me at least, it works.
Yeah,
It works. So for me, that speech, like cheesy as it is, Captain America is cheesy, and that's what I like about it. Like that's what I loved about Steve Rogers, and I feel like
yeah,
he has his own kind of cheesy that works. Like he's not trying to be Steve.
no,
Like
yeah.
you can tell, no, this is Sam Wilson speaking from his heart.
Mm.
So no, I
But he embodies that the idea of the character, regardless
yeah,
of whether he's Steve Rogers or not. What would he say? Oh, I, I don't have blue eyes
uh,
and blonde hair,
I'm a
but
black
I
man
am
in the
Captain
Stars and
America.
Stripes.
Yeah, and like when the lady says, "Oh, you don't understand," I'm a black man in America wearing the Stars and Stripes. What don't I understand?
What
That's a
don't I?
great line.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a
what?
great line.
I know all the sides of this conversation, and
Yeah.
you're just being condescending for no reason. Another line in the speech that I thought was really good was when he said, "But like, you call them terrorists, but what do you think they like to the
Yeah.
soldiers with assault rifles who go to them and round them up and send them to another country that is not where they chose to live? What do you think they call them?
Yeah.
Like, you're just seeing this in a completely one-sided way, and maybe the cheesy bit is I don't know. I think the cheesy. I like the speech. I like the speech being broadcast on TV. I the way the people in the GRC are portrayed, where they all have good intentions, and one good speech will change their minds. That is a bit cartoony. It's a
It
bit,
is.
but it is Marvel though. To be
Yeah.
fair, like it has to like comic books as well as a lot of kind of science fiction, adventure, young adult storytelling. If that makes sense. Like obviously they're also for adults, but they aim to be able to encapsulate like a broader demographic.
Yeah.
A lot of these stories are relatively simple moral stories.
Yeah.
They're just trying to, and I think Stan Lee also spoke about this quite a lot when he was alive in his little thingies that he wrote at
Stan's
the end of the comics.
soapbox.
Yeah,
Soapbox. Yeah. His
he
soapbox.
like he said that like the stories that we're trying to tell are relatively simple. So of course things resolve in comic books in a way that they don't resolve in real life. But that doesn't mean that that resolution isn't meaningful within the story because it's showing you how in fact in real life maybe it should be that simple. And I found that ending to be pretty great. I really really enjoyed that element.
To that thing, this reminds me of something you once told me because we were talking about Star Wars at one point, and you
Yeah.
told me that you hated the idea of the Grey Jedi, and I asked you why, and you were like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, because this story is for kids, and by
Yeah.
implementing the Grey Jedi, you're muddying the whole thing. You're kind of introducing the fact that you have to be a bit evil to do good,
Yeah.
while the whole story is no, good people do good stuff. That's
Yeah.
the thing. That's why the light side is so
That's the
important.
point.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to look so deep into it. And I feel like it's the same thing here. Like it
Exactly.
isn't deeper than it needs to be.
Hmm.
They call out all the things they call out. They say, "Oh, there's a problem with this country. There's a problem with racism in this country." We'll get to Elijah in a bit.
Hmm. Isaiah.
Uh,
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Yeah.
I'll explain. No, I will not explain why I keep calling him Eli. That's another thing.
Yeah.
It's a comic book
Okay.
thing. I keep calling him Eli. It's a comic book thing.
That's
No,
fine.
is that
I believe you. I don't
yeah,
know.
is that I and for me, like even the way they resolve him is a way that everybody can understand. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
be black to understand this story, and I feel like that's
Yeah.
also an important thing because remember how I said like earlier, oh, some gatekeeping is okay.
Mm.
For Marvel, I feel like that's part of their charm. That is like no, it's for everyone, and it should
Yeah.
be like accessible for everyone. Even these kinds of story that can be difficult. It can be hard for some people to even hear
Yeah.
to present them in this way, and even that like every single scene
Mhm.
with him with Isaiah, right?
It's painful.
It's painful every scene,
Yeah.
even when it's happy at the end of the episode. It's still
Yeah.
painful. It's
Yeah.
like what a character.
He's like props to the actor as well, because I
Yes,
think he
yes.
really embodies that anger of just being left behind and erased from history. And it maybe it's easy for me, like,
Say
what
it.
I mean to say is, like, of course, an old black man in America has experienced a lot of anger and discrimination throughout his life and racism. And so I can see how those actors are putting some of their real life feelings
Mm,
into these roles.
mm,
And that's great, honestly, because like even Sam's character is the younger, but maybe more successful black man who's grown up in a world that is a little less difficult than it was for the older guy.
mm.
So like he does see both sides. He is more of a, yeah, but like we can't just reject everything. We have to fight for this. Like we have to be part of this system to some extent in order to change it from within. Um, and I think that's his position, and it's a position that it feels realistic as a dynamic, even if they're talking about super soldiers and flying characters or whatever.
And it even makes sense in universe, actually.
Yeah,
Because think about when was the last time the US government paraded a black guy around? It was Rhodey as Iron Patriot.
yep,
They
yep,
made him a glorified weapon. That's
yes.
the big difference between it's like this is the
Also, he
government's
was wearing
army.
a mask.
He was wearing a mask. This is
Yep,
this is our super weapon that goes out and blows shit up. Isn't it
yep,
cool? That's how they made like Rhodey with Iron
yeah,
Patriot. That's what you're allowed to be as a black man in this universe.
yeah.
And for me, like even with the cut, like they didn't even use that cut. And it's just me watching it, thinking like, oh, there's also like Rhodey. That he was the last one, like black guy. They put a flag on, but they also put a machine gun on his fucking shoulder.
Yeah.
So
And also, like, Captain America,
yeah,
despite the name, is less of a patriotic symbol than the Iron Patriot because he's never working for the government. Like, he's
no,
really doing what he thinks is right. Like,
he was a
what
war
he
criminal.
thinks. Like, yeah, he's doing what he thinks the real value of America should be,
Yeah,
regardless of what they are currently. So when he doesn't agree with what the government is doing, he becomes a war criminal. Like he
yeah,
goes on the other side and becomes kind of a revolutionary.
yeah.
So, and I think putting a black man in that position, where I think the struggle that Sam has throughout the series is I don't want to be a symbol for a country that doesn't give a shit about me and my people. But what he realizes at the end is that's not what Captain America is. Captain America embodies, as I said, what America, the view of what America should be, of
Mm.
what it can be. So putting a black man in that position makes it even more meaningful.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's the reporter asks him, "Oh, when did the government make you Captain America?" And he doesn't even answer
No,
because
he just
it
walks off.
wasn't
Yeah.
it wasn't the government that made
Yeah.
him Captain America. It was Captain America that made him Captain
Yeah.
America. I chose to be Captain America, so it's even more meaningful because it wasn't some bureaucrat in Washington that told me, "Oh, you're allowed now to be Captain
Yeah.
America." No, he
We actually
chose to
like
be.
you now. You should.
Yeah,
Good thing you can have the shield now, Sam. It's like
yeah.
so.
That's not how it goes down.
So you want to know how it kind of goes down in the comics? Just
Okay,
like when
tell me.
when he's Captain America, because our good friend John Walker is part of the storyline as
He
well
is, yeah.
in the comics. So in the comics, the way to go about it is he becomes Captain America,
Mhm.
and multiple like right wingers specifically, they start this campaign on Twitter called hashtag Take Back the Shield, where they just insist on taking back the shield. And the right wingers,
God.
who did they employ? Fucking John Walker. And John like comes up to him and he's like, "No, shield is not yours anymore, Sam. You have to give it up, or I'm gonna beat it out of your hands." And it's like a whole thing. Because
Mm,
in the comics, John Walker respects Captain America, and he
yeah,
kind of wants to be with him, but he's an asshole. Like he doesn't know how to be.
yeah,
He's not that. He's not that character. That's like a point to that as well. So for me, like seeing it, they kind of do the same thing here, where like, hey, except for the fact that Sam just doesn't want to shield even himself because he
yeah.
has self doubt, which I think works way better in the show than in the comics. By the way,
Yeah, I think it because it's not just self-doubt. It's like he doesn't doubt necessarily himself. He doubts whether it makes sense for a black man to be the symbol of
yeah,
America and for him to carry the stars and stripes because he's conflicted on what that means for him. So it's great internal conflict, and I
yeah,
think the show does a really good job of seeing how meeting Carly and meeting John Walker and talking to Bucky as well changes his opinion and eventually leads him to choose to be Captain America.
mm,
I think his arc is fantastic in this. I will say overall for the show, it's called the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it's really the Sam show. Like
yeah.
he's the main character, and he gets a great story out of it.
Do you
It
want to talk Bucky down then?
yeah, Bucky is more of a side character,
Yeah,
which is fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's just like it's just kind of strange that it's called Falcon and Winter Soldier. It's really a Falcon slash Captain America show.
yeah,
Um, but I think they do a lot of interesting stuff with Bucky. I think that he's the character that has been dealing with trauma throughout the movies. But of course, we never got to spend enough time with him to really understand what he was going through. And the way that it resolves in this episode, I thought was really good. Like last episode, he met all of Sam's family and they kind of bonded again.
what a great
And
episode, by the way. Episode 5. We
oh
didn't
yeah,
talk about it because we went on
we
hiatus
skipped
for
a
a week.
week, but yeah, it was such a
Uh
good episode.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
I think it was actually my favorite. Like I know I keep saying it with every episode of this show, but this episode 5 was my hands down
yeah,
favorite.
it was great
Yeah,
because it was great because it was just them.
yeah,
It was barely even a Marvel show at that point.
yeah.
It was just these two characters that
It
we
was
like hanging out and but well,
it was a Marvel comic. That was the thing for
exactly.
me.
Yeah,
It felt like
I was
reading a
just about to
Marvel
say
comic because
like it.
sometimes you have these issues where the
Mhm.
characters are just hanging out, being
Yeah,
themselves, doing barbecue or whatever,
yeah,
talking to people, fixing a boat, and it's like, oh, this is so
it was
good.
great.
This is
Like
so
just
good.
seeing
Yeah.
him go around and speak to all the people in the neighborhood and them coming up with and helping to fix the boat
Mm,
because they respected his family and like the
yeah.
sister was just too proud to ask, I guess.
Yeah.
It like
Yeah.
that was great. That was good
and
fun.
and him
And
training with the shield as well, like
yeah, really
throwing it,
heartwarming
trying to,
stuff.
yeah, really, just so good, just so good. Him like accepting, and his like talk with Isaiah
Yeah,
in episode 5. Holy shit,
yeah,
excellent! Like every
powerful
single
stuff.
scene with him is like, oh, holy
Every
shit!
scene with Isaiah is it
It's a gut
surprises me.
punch. It's a gut punch.
It surprises me because I before the show came out, and I guess we're also talking about the show in general now, but
Yeah,
before the show came out, I had relatively low expectations, to be
yeah,
honest. I thought it was just going to be, oh, this is fun action. It's, buddy cop action. We're going to go into this big adventure uh, and whatever. I didn't think it was going to grip me this much. And the Isaiah scenes specifically, I think, are the best example of how the show is so much more than just, oh, this is fun Marvel action and we're going across the world punching bad guys. Like the Isaiah scenes, beginning to end, are just so great, and they acknowledge some really dark um, pages in American history, and they roll with them, and they point a light on them,
Mhm.
regardless of the fact that this is about some fictional character with superpowers, but the stories that are real If you've seen, I don't know, the film The Five Bloods from last year from Spike Lee, it's all about these Black War veterans who came back to America. They had fought in Vietnam and they all have PTSD, and they come back to America and they're just completely ignored.
Mm.
No one cares about them. There's nothing waiting for them, and they were kind of broke for the rest of their lives. So whatever. Good. Thank you for fighting for us. Now back to the land of the racism, I guess.
And this is
That's,
basically what happens with Isaiah.
yeah, that's a real story. And with Isaiah, of course, it gets even darker, and
Yeah.
there's all the serum stuff. But it's showing you something that is real through a highly fictional lens.
Yeah.
And
Which
it really surprised me. It was great. Yeah.
Which is something I want to see Marvel do more of, because they kind of do
Yes.
it in like Black Panther as well.
Yeah,
They talk
for sure.
about they talk about slavery. They talk about the
Yeah.
fact that how Africa was colonized. They should also talk about how America was colonized. That's a story for another day. But how
Yes.
Africa was like colonized, and just of course, not every single show should be this.
Yeah.
But I'm glad
when
like,
it fits,
when it fits,
they should go for it. Yeah.
And for
I'm
me, at least,
very happy to see that they went for it, because I thought, oh, they're gonna say something about racism, but they're not really gonna get too deep into it. But
And they
they
went
actually
deep.
really go for it.
I did not expect I did not expect that. That's okay. We'll talk a bit about Isaiah. I don't think there's not much to add there.
No, I just to say, in the final episode, the final scene with him was really, it got me. Like the scene of Sam, basically Sam organizes in the Captain America museum that we see throughout the movies. I think we see it in Winter Soldier. We see it we see it in this show as well, before, when Sam walks through it again. He has a whole new area in the museum that is dedicated to Isaiah and what he did. So he's still kind of a character. As a character, doesn't really exist, because Isaiah has chosen to not, exist anymore, so that he doesn't have to deal with all that stuff. It doesn't have to deal with the government again. But Sam made him a part of American history that will never be forgotten. And just the way he, like, Isaiah throughout the show is this very, like, gruff, hard character who doesn't really want to show his emotions, and the way he just breaks down and hugs Sam, I thought was a great ending for the show.
Joe did, however, mention something that was a bit funny. She was like, wow, can you believe he did this in the museum without even asking for permission first? I was like, okay, that's kind of funny, but
he probably did. Like, he probably set it up. We don't have to see all of the mechanics of how.
But it was like, it made me laugh. It was like, okay, that's kind of funny. But yeah, it's a good scene, though. It's a fantastic scene. So, Kali.
Yeah. I thought Kali's story was good enough. I didn't think it was a highlight of the show in the same way. Like, when they introduced her character and the Flag Smashers, I thought, oh, this is very interesting stuff. And then the show kind of pivoted away from them to some extent, while still making their cause sympathetic, because, like, the big speech that Sam gives at the end that we've talked about is about, why are you, like, repatriating these people who live here? That's horrible. You can't just, the snap happened, you can't just pretend like it didn't happen and go back to how the world was before. But then, of course, she goes down the deep end and becomes an evil character, I guess. They didn't do that much with her after that. I think the introduction was the most interesting part, but I think she was a serviceable, good villain for the show. Yeah,
I agree.
There's not
like,
that much to say,
Do you think there was more to say in the original cut of the show, whatever that was?
I don't know.
With the whole virus thingy that went through the world?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I don't know if that would have made that much of a difference. I do think maybe the show could have had a few episodes more to just flesh out that side a little more.
6 episodes, by the way, perfect length.
It was good.
Yeah. I don't need more.
You don't think you need more?
No.
Okay.
Me personally, I feel like this was the perfect length. 6 episodes is more than enough for me.
Right.
Because I got what I wanted out of the almost like. Okay, can I go back to Bucky just for a bit? Because we'll talk about length. Because the first episode really sets it up as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Because we have the Falcon, like Sam, he's running around trying to figure out his life. Can't even get a loan at the bank. Can't even figure anything out how it's gonna work. And he's like gave up the shield, and now this douchebag is Captain America suddenly. And on the other side, we have this entire subplot with Bucky and he's running around trying to make amends, but not really. He's just like hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And he's like, can't really figure out how to say the words, I killed your
Yeah.
son,
Yeah.
and all of that. And then that plot is kind of forgotten until this episode, where he goes back to the old man and says, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm the one who killed, which was a very good scene.
Good scene, yeah.
Very good scene.
Great scene.
Specifically, Sebastian Stan, honestly. I feel like in this series specific, I was like, oh yeah, this dude is a good actor.
Yeah.
Like whenever
he
like
got
he
quite
gets
a few
emotional,
really good scenes.
yeah, whenever he gets emotional, I'm like, oh, this dude is actually good, because I never felt I got that from. Okay, I got it a bit like in Winter Soldier where he's like punching Steve, and Steve's like, I'm not gonna hit you because I'm with you, and his eyes just flare up and
Yeah.
that shock, and like you can tell just by his eyes. Like I feel like that's such a cool character moment because you can tell like he knows how to act.
Mhm.
I wanted, yeah, and I just wanted more of this dude because it felt like his story is not over yet. Like, okay, he went through the list. He went through every single person he wronged and made amends.
Yeah.
Now what? Because he's still the Winter Soldier by name in the title.
I think the point of even him not having, like, he had a resolution to what was his issue at the beginning of the show. So like his arc within this show, I think, is relatively complete. Could they have done a few more scenes of it? Sure, but like I still think it's a pretty good arc for him.
Yeah.
I think what it's setting up though is now what? Like now I've made amends. I've kind of fixed my PTSD issues to some extent. I've dealt with the brainwashing that they did with me. Now I think the point of his character going forward will be he has to figure out what he wants to do now. Does he want to keep staying with Sam and work with him, but maybe he could get a new title? Does he want to be the Winter Soldier still? I doubt it.
Yeah, I think he would rather go with by White Wolf going forward, since he has that title.
Yeah, or something like that. Like he
or
certainly,
just like Sergeant Barnes, because one person calls him Sergeant Barnes, which is like a reference to him being a sergeant in the original
in the original movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we'll see what his character does moving forward, but he certainly has kind of what he has in front of him is a decision on what he wants to do with his life at this point. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I do agree that the show being called Falcon and the Winter Soldier is kind of misleading.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing it in a misleading way, but it's just like it's more of a focus on Sam, and I think it made the show a really, really good Falcon show.
Yes.
And
100%.
and I liked having Bucky there because he's a good, like, he's both a good foil to Sam just as a character. Their dynamic is fun, but it also adds some weight to some of the scenes, and I think he's instrumental in making Sam realize, look, the shield is not about being a symbol of America. It's about, as we said, being a symbol for Captain America and what it should mean.
Yeah, because it's almost as if for me that that Bucky is almost trying to get Steve back in Sam. He's like, no, you're gonna be Steve now, almost, because that's what he wants in the beginning. Like he wants him to be Steve, and at the end, it's like, no, Captain America can be many things, and you can be Captain America in your way. So they do a twist that everybody saw coming, because it's not actually a twist, and then suddenly, I don't know. Okay. So Sharon is the power broker. Whoopsie fucking.
Oh yeah, who could have guessed?
Who cares?
First of all, who gives a shit?
Who
like
gives a
that was like cool.
Like,
yeah,
I'm glad they're giving her stuff to do now, instead of being
Yeah.
that chick that spied on Cap and Winter Soldier, and then suddenly, oh, by the way, she's what's her name? Peggy's niece.
Peggy's niece. It's kind of
and-
weird that you're kissing her, but whatever. We'll just not talk about it ever again.
And it's like, then she shows up, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, she's the power broker, didn't you know? I was like, this wasn't a mystery.
Yeah,
it was pretty obvious. Like, if it wasn't her, it was someone else. And you know what? It doesn't matter.
Who cares? Yeah.
The
honestly.
internet, Hugo, why is the internet so obsessed with who the power broker was or is or whatever? It's not like, important.
I think, I don't know if we said this before on the show or if it's something that you said to me, but I think the whole mystery box storytelling has fucked up how people watch things.
Yeah, I think that sounds like something I would say.
Yeah, because like the focus on the, I guess, mysteries within a show has become so obsessive that people kind of miss the point of what the show is. Like
Yeah.
it was the same with WandaVision, because like the show was clearly about sitcoms,
Mm.
family, and trauma. That was what the show was.
But you can excuse people with WandaVision more because there was that mystery of why the fuck is the show a
Yeah,
sitcom
for
suddenly?
sure.
That was the
But
mystery.
that
Not
was the
whatever the
mystery. But
fuck the
then,
devil is gonna show.
yeah, but then to that, instead of focusing on the mystery and what the show is presenting, people go to, oh, this is how they're introducing the X-Men, and this is how Mephisto is going to show up, and then Mojo is going to show. It's like,
Hey,
whatever. That's not how
that
storytelling
was
works
that
in
was my
movies.
theory, by the way, with Mojo.
That's
Which
fine, but
wasn't
like,
even a theory. It was like, huh, if they had to do something with a villain, I would guess Mojo. That was what I
yeah,
said.
yeah, but like, it's like people focus so much on that stuff and they miss what the show is actually doing, I think.
Yeah,
And
I
it's probably
agree.
the same with this one, because I was like, oh, people are all talking about Madripoor and how it connects to the X-Men and how the Power Broker is
It
this.
doesn't matter.
Who gives a shit? It doesn't. It really doesn't
And
matter.
I'm sure I've said it on this show before, but like, do you seriously expect them to introduce the X-Men, the fucking mutants, in the
Yeah,
Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Do you really expect them to introduce them there?
yeah. It's
Like,
it's ridiculous. Yeah.
yeah, it's so ridiculous.
Like at least in WandaVision, you have the excuse of Wanda in the comics is a mutant, and the reason why she's not in the MCU is for rights reasons. So
Yeah.
at least you
And
have that connection
they
there.
actually changed it in the comics, so she's not a mutant anymore. She's actually
They
known
take
as the Pretender, and and she's basically like
oh
the devil for all mutants. They hate her because
right
what she did to them and all that. It's fun comic stuff. Yeah,
whatever,
she's
but
not gonna
it's like
be. Yeah, and they're not gonna
yeah,
make her a mutant in the MCU either. They're gonna
I don't
make them
think
their
so.
own thing whenever they introduce them,
Yeah, they're
whenever
just
the
good, but
time's
it's
right.
like the deal was done what a year ago, a year and a half ago with Fox. Like it's going to take a while for them to introduce the X-Men, and they're not going to do it in a TV show, right? Like
No,
either
no,
there's
they
an
would never do that. Are you insane? Why would they
like
introduce
either
the
there's going
X-Men
to
in a
be
TV show?
an X-Men, specifically X-Men TV show. Like I
Yeah,
don't know, Xavier's School for whatever
gifted
it's called,
children.
Gifted Children. That could be a TV show. That's how they introduce the
Yeah.
X-Men. I could possibly see that happening. There's no way they're just throwing out Easter eggs to introduce the X-Men in the fucking
Mm.
Falcon show, which is about black people and racism in America. Like it just doesn't make any sense. It's ridiculous.
It makes no
Um,
sense. But yeah, we were
yeah.
talking about Sharon. Sorry. Do you like the how they're
It's
using her
fine.
now?
I don't care. It's
Yeah,
like that's fine. It's cool that they gave her something to do. I think
yeah.
her character is fun now because
And the
it's like,
mid
oh, she
credits, yeah, the
it
mid
was
credit
fun. Like,
scenes where she's
oh
like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
where oh she was betrayed,
yeah,
so she has anger towards her government that left her behind, and so she chose to become this weird, like supervillain
super
of
gangster.
some super gangster of some
Yeah,
kind, and now she's back with the government, but she's also using them to have access to all the tech that she can sell to make money.
yeah. It
Cool,
seems to me
that's
it's gonna be like a cool
fine.
setup for something in the future.
Yeah, but
That's
it
how
does
it's gonna be.
it's
It's
it
gonna be
doesn't
an
really
yeah.
inform my opinion of the show one
Yeah,
way or the
it
other.
doesn't.
She's
It's a
there, that's
plot
fine.
device, and I'm happy
Yeah,
they did something with her that's better than just oh she's back and now she's a good person.
yeah,
Uh, I would rather have this. That's like okay. Again,
cool.
she's a plot device. She's not a.
Yeah,
She was a plot device in the Winter Soldier. She was a
yeah.
plot device in Civil War, and she's a blood device. Plot
A
device.
blood device.
A
We're going back
blood
into
device.
Bloodborne territory again.
Fear the old blood.
Fear the old blood,
But no,
Lawrence.
she's a. But no, she's a plot device here as well, and that's fine.
Yeah,
Not everybody
that's
should have a
totally
character.
fine.
We don't have
Yeah,
time. I just want 6 episodes. I don't need
yeah,
an episode of how bad Sharon had it in Bad Report as well.
it's fine. Yeah,
She
it's
was an
fine.
FBI person, and now she's the
Whatever.
power
She's like
broker.
the power broker or whatever that means. The characters that do get that is introduced in the show and kind of gets more of a story is John Walker.
Oh yeah, we
Kind of.
skipped. We totally skipped John.
Yeah.
We didn't. Yeah.
I don't know. How did you feel about how, like, for me? Okay, this is the one thing that I didn't completely like about the last episode, aside from we've talked about the action and how it was confusing at the beginning, but like story wise, the one thing that I didn't like about the episode is how they dealt with John Walker. I felt it was kind of they didn't go far enough with it, and he's kind of, oh, I guess he's kind of a good guy again now. To me, he was my villain for the show. He was the character that I hated the most throughout the show, and I felt like, oh, a natural progression for him would be, oh, he's kind of anti-Captain America, and he goes a bit crazy and whatever.
And I feel like for me, he was also my villain because I fucking hate Walker.
Hate that guy. I hate Walker. I was like, let's hope Carly bashes his head in, man.
Yeah. But you also kind of hate to, you kind of also like love to hate him. So for me, at least when he showed, I was like, "Oh, there's that asshole again with his bootleg."
When I say
Captain America shield from Wish.
Yeah, the fake shield or whatever, which he made with aluminium apparently, because the one punch and it was broken. Whatever. But when I say hate the guy, I just to put it on the record, I think he's a very good character. Like he's a villain that is very well characterized and he's an asshole, but that's the point of the characters. That's why you don't like him. To all the people who went online and kind of harassed Wyatt.
Nobody harassed him, by the way. I'm just gonna say it.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. People were just talking about he doesn't have social media. Where did they harass him? Nobody harassed him. It was.
But like,
cool. I just want to say
whatever. Yeah, that's fair. But like, to all the people who turned their hate for the character into, oh, fuck Wyatt Russell and all this kind of talk, that's just stop. Like, you need to start separating characters from their actors more, and this needs to really end.
Also,
social
people
media
want him
is
for
dumb.
Star Wars now because of the dude with the sideburns from Rebels. I forgot his name. Callus, Agent Callus.
Yes,
people want him to play Agent Callus, and I can see it. Dude looks like Agent Callus, and he has the same like asshole vibe where he was like, yeah.
This guy's a dick. Like, he could do it. I thought he was a good actor in this.
Definitely.
At being an actor, being an asshole, he was really good.
Yeah, very good.
So, what I'm saying is, like, at the end, they kind of leave his story behind. Like, at the end of the last episode, it was kind of there was an after credit scene where he's like, oh, he's building the shield again, and he's like, I am Captain America. And in this episode, he fights a bit, and then for a while he seems conflicted. But then at the end, he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's fine. You're Captain America now. I don't really care anymore." And I felt like that was a little too sudden for him.
Yeah.
I do like
a bit more time.
Yeah, I just need a little bit more conflict there with him. So like the fact that I guess between them it's fine now. That felt a bit rushed.
Yeah. I think for me, at least, it's him seeing Sam as the role. Maybe that's the thing that
that's what they're doing. Yeah. That's how they explain it in the show, but it feels a little bit rushed and out of character. That's
just
what
a bit. Yeah, I agree. It does feel a little bit rushed, and I kind of wish they did more with it. But then,
although I do like the end point of him being U.S. agent, though.
Yes, the U.S. agent. Because I knew, like, the funniest thing for me is I thought he was going to be U.S. agent from the get-go. Because as soon as, like, oh, John Walker's in the show, oh, they're going to introduce the U.S. agent. But no, instead they also...
me not knowing anything about the comics, I was like, I don't know what that means. So.
I don't know what the U.S. agent means. Which is a cool name because USA. Yeah, that's funny. I love comic books. It's so stupid. I love it so much. So they also introduced in the last episode, because we didn't even talk about it. They brought fucking Julia Louis-Dreyfus into the MCU as Countess Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. I had to look it up to say the full name.
Sure.
Which is okay, sure.
She was there.
She's in the MCU now.
She was in the show, I guess. She has blue hair.
She's basically... So here's the thing with her. Just like, without spoiling really, she's basically a shadow version of Nick Fury. And now we have a shadow version of Captain America as well.
Cool.
And she was supposed to be introduced in the Black Widow movie. She's in that one as well.
Oh, okay,
and they said that was supposed to be her debut, but we had to debut her here. So this was actually supposed to be a second time meeting her. Be like, oh shit, she's there. And if I had
that would have made more sense.
And if I had to guess, because they already said that they're gonna introduce the new Black Widow in the Black Widow movie with her sister.
Yeah.
They always said like there's gonna be some stuff with her and she's gonna be carrying the mantle going forward.
Yeah.
So it seems to me like she's like making a Shadow Avengers. Like it's the new Phase One all over again, but with evil Avengers, like or maybe more
Yeah.
morally gray Avengers. I don't
Yeah.
know, but
I
I'm
guess.
interested in seeing where this is headed. Where it is like her character is just like I come, I say funny lies. I'm
Yeah.
Julia
That's the
Louis
thing.
Dreyfus,
Like
and yeah, I
for
like her,
me,
but she's not really a character yet.
yeah, for
Yeah,
me, this is where I think sometimes with comic book adaptations of all kinds,
yeah,
they I think Marvel is pretty good at this. They kind of manage to keep the audience with them most of the time because like I don't know anything about comics, but I'm really into the MCU. I can
yeah.
follow it all. I remember all the lore and whatever. But like sometimes it's like, oh, this character shows up. I'm the Countess blah 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 whatever, and I have blue hair. And for me, it's like, oh, this is I don't know what this means. Like I don't know who this is. I don't
But
know
I feel
why it
like
connects in
also,
any way.
but you're not supposed to know at this point because I don't know either. I'm
Exactly.
just
That's
saying,
fair.
yeah, and that's
That's
how you're
fair.
supposed to view it as well because you're supposed to be like, oh, I wonder who this is, and
Yes,
and of course, whenever
but
you watch
like
the MCU,
when you tell me, oh, she's kind of the shadow version of Nick Fury,
I'm
I
guessing,
instantly I
I'm guessing
instantly
also by the way,
understand much
yeah.
more though.
Oh, sorry, but I'm also guessing like based on what I know of her from the comics, how they're gonna use
Right.
her because they never use the characters like the comics. They always switch
Exactly
them
like that.
around.
That's true.
But
And
that's the
like
vibe
the
I'm
US
getting from her.
agent
Yeah,
and like the US agent character, I guess what I gathered from it is that he's going to be Black Ops
yeah,
Captain America, where he's not the face of America, but
yeah,
he's doing all the dirty work that,
yeah. He's the CIA.
Americans. Yeah, he's the CIA sending
Yeah.
people to Cuba to
Yeah.
do some
But
crap.
that's the
Yeah,
kind of
that's
shit like John Walker should have done from the start. Because
yes.
I feel like it's exactly where this dude needed to be, especially because
Yeah.
now, like, he's a super soldier
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna, I mean, whoever's gonna use him is gonna use him. He's not just gonna sit there and be like, "Hmm, okay, I'm just gonna retire now.
Yeah, and they
Lamar
might use
died.
him for some
Yeah,
dark shit, and there might
yeah.
be some conflict there between the Avengers and the Shadow Avengers, if you want to call them that,
Have you
as you
ever heard
said, or
about the
whatever.
Dark Avengers from the comics?
I have
No.
not.
I will tell you because it's not gonna be a spoiler because I don't think the storylines they're gonna do it. But
Right.
so basically, at one point, Norman Osborn from the Spider-Man
Yes.
comics,
Yes.
he actually defeats the big evil villain,
Yeah.
and he gets rewarded with Shield, and he takes over Shield and makes and changes the name to Hammer, H
Oh
A
my
M
god.
M E R, like it's an acronym for something. And
Yeah.
then that's where they introduce the Iron Patriot suit because he brings out
Right.
in the comics. It's actually a Norman Osborn thing. It's not a Rhodey thing at all in the comics.
Hmm.
So Norman Osborn he paints a War Machine suit and becomes like both Iron Man and Captain America in one character. And then he
Hmm.
brings Venom on board, and Venom pretends to be like Spider-Man. And then he brings like a character with claws like Wolverine is like you're Wolverine now, and he brings a Captain Marvel villain. He's like you're Miss Marvel now, and he brings all these different villains, and they're just like the Dark Avengers, and
Hmm.
everybody's like these are villains, but I guess the government was like, let's go with these guys for once. And the comic is called Dark Avengers, and
Yeah.
I kind of hope they do. Like, I love shadow versions of stuff when they do it like as a team like this.
Hmm.
I've talked about before that I hate that basically all the Marvel movies kind of do the shadow. Oh, in this one we're fighting bad Captain America. In the last one we're fighting evil Vision and evil Scarlet Witch.
Yeah.
And they kind of do that, but for some reason when it's a team, I kind of excuse it. It's like,
It's
oh,
kind of yeah.
that's fun because they have dynamics suddenly. Because then you introduce
If there's a
characters to
team,
them.
it's
So
just not
yeah,
one character that's the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like Yellow Jacket from Ant-Man. Who remembers Yellow Jacket?
Whatever.
What? Who
Like
cares about
the
Yellow
most
Jacket?
forgettable guy. Like the only reason I remember that guy is because the actor
Yeah.
plays Ernest Hemingway in Midnight in Paris.
You
That's what
know,
I know that
you
guy
know who
from.
the saddest thing the MCU did? It was with
Yeah.
the bad guy Malekith from Thor: The Dark World, the evil elf
The
guy.
Dark Elf.
The
Yeah.
reason why I know his name because you're like, why do you know his name?
Who?
In the comics, this dude is batshit insane. He's so funny and weird, and he's like a jester almost, but not quite. And he has a fucking dragon, and the dragon arrives in New York, and he's like, "Where are all your riches?" And some dude's like, Wall Street," and the dragon goes to Wall Street to find the world's riches, and it's like, ah, why why can't the MCU just indulge a little bit in that wackiness in
Yeah,
the comic? Like a dragon
yeah.
attacking Wall Street to find the riches of the world is hilarious.
That'd be great. That'd be amazing.
Okay, sorry, that was a side note. Zemo.
Fair enough.
Let's end with Zemo.
Zemo, yeah, Zemo is the last character that we didn't talk about. He gets a little bit more in this episode. There's like one scene with him, and
Great scene,
at
though.
the end, we see his butler, his personal Alfred or whatever, who just is a terrorist as well. He just blows up people. There's this like really old European guy.
I
That
forgot
was
about the butler, by the
amazing.
way, because I was
That was
watching the
so
scene
funny for me.
and I was like, "Who's this old guy?"
Yeah.
I forgot about him.
Yeah, the butler shows up again and he blows up 4 of the flag smashers
Yeah,
that
the
are being
remaining
arrested.
super soldier.
Yeah.
Like the normal super soldiers at this point.
Because they're super soldiers, and he's like, "Oh, Zemo is against every super soldier." So I
Yeah.
guess even from prison, he knows his butler is doing it, and he sees the news, and he's like, "That was good," and he lies back down.
His little smile got me. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love it." Everything. Like I've seen people be like, "Oh, they kind of retconned his character from Civil War," and you can make that argument.
Whatever.
But that being said,
Yeah.
we didn't have enough
But he's
time with
better
him,
now,
so he's
so-
way better.
Yeah.
I love Zemo in this show so much. I feel like
Yeah.
he's like the best. He's so funny and charming. And they even gave him the mask from the comics, like when he wears the
Yeah,
mask
yeah,
and
yeah,
shoots
yeah.
the guy in Mad Rapport. Fuck man, Zemo, like him dancing in the club. Like come on, he's
Yeah.
given us so much.
Everything he does in the show is at the same time kind of menacing, but also funny. Like
Yeah.
he's a fun guy. Like he's a villain and he wants to blow people up, but he's also kind of a fun guy,
Yeah,
which
you
I think
kinda wanna hang
is an
out with him.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. And he's also like, I think the scene on the plane where he's like, "Oh, this film it kind of really encapsulates the black experience in America," and like Sam is like, "Oh, dude, you're way out of like." He's right, but he's way out of like. That's the best comedic scene in the film for me, in like
show,
the series. Yeah.
And also like where he talks about how like, he talks about that and it's like, oh, it's a masterpiece, James, absolute masterpiece. It's
Like, you
like,
have to watch it.
it's just so much shit. It's like what?
It's
And
great,
that's
yeah.
actually a meme now. Like
Yeah.
people talk about when they love face like James, it's an absolute masterpiece. It's like
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I think this is what's cool about these Marvel shows, that they can have these beats or moments that are just, oh, these are just characters hanging out and just being themselves, and it's fun. And as we said, like episode 5, one of your favorite episode, yeah, and it's mostly just them hanging out as Sam and Bucky, you know, bonding and figuring out what they want for their lives and to fix the boat or whatever. Like they do a boat fixing montage that it reminded me of the house building montage in Red Dead Redemption, for example. It's
yeah.
like it's just like a fun little thing that they can do that in a movie they would never have time for this.
Also,
So, yeah.
I love the house building montage in Red Dead so much, and I love the
Hell
boat
yeah.
repairing montage in this as well. I
Yeah,
just like
it's great.
people building stuff. Like
Yeah,
I
it's
just want to
fun.
hang out. I don't care about plot. I just want to hang
Yeah,
out.
it's just a fun
And like
dynamic.
for me, like really focusing on the character gave it so much. Gave it
Yeah.
so much.
And like both this and WandaVision, I think that's their biggest success. Even when they have shortcomings when it comes to the action and stuff like that, it's like you care about these characters who were side characters before so much more now because you've spent quality time with them. Like for me, Wanda, it was never one of my I don't know, she was barely in the other movies, but now I really care about her. And Bucky and Falcon, like I guess Bucky to some extent you get more in the films because he's so connected to Steve.
Yeah.
But still, now I care a lot more about Bucky. I care a lot more about Sam, and I feel like I understand who Sam is and what he wants way more than I did before. And I think it's really cool for these shows to be able to flesh out these characters that maybe didn't get enough screen time. So now you love them, and now maybe, you know, in the next movie they can be main characters because now you already have that foundation with them.
I mean, you've got the new leader of the Avengers right there.
Hell yeah.
Let's hope so. It's gonna be him, isn't it? Like it has to be him.
Yeah, he's Captain America now.
He's Captain America. He's the leader.
regardless of what they do in the future, as of right now, Captain America being a black guy is awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's just great, and I hope people are angry about it online and they can get fucked.
Yeah. Those who get angry at this
That's
get
my point of view.
fucked.
Yes.
But you're talking about, like, honestly, I see you've written something in the doc, so I'm gonna read it out loud, okay?
Yeah.
I'm gonna read it. How the show fits in the MCU and why the fanboys are the fucking worst. So you added
Yeah.
one thing, I added one thing. So
Yeah.
what do you want to say to that?
It's again, I think we've already actually talked about it, where it's like, oh, the fans are just focusing on whether the X-Men are being introduced, or Mephisto is going to show up, or like what's the law, and oh, but why it would make more sense for Bucky to be Captain America because he have the serum. It's just like, yeah, that's not the point of the show.
Yeah.
You're
And
missing
also,
what the point is.
let's talk about that. Do
And
you
you're
want
just
to
being
talk
a
about that?
dick.
Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that? Because we can talk about that. The reason
Oh,
why
what?
Bucky isn't Captain America is because he has murdered so many people. He
Yeah.
has so much blood in his hands. That redemption arc isn't for him. He can never wear that shield because of who he is and what he's done. He can
Yeah.
never be Captain. That's the point. Sam
Yeah.
is pure, at least trying to be pure, as
Mhm.
much as he can. Like, and even like the end fight with Kali is a very Steve Rogers moment. He's like, I don't want to fight you. I don't want to
Yeah.
fight you. I don't want to fight you. Let's talk it out. I don't want to fight you. Which is great.
That's what
Yeah,
Captain America
That's
is.
that's why Bucky can't be Captain America. Because he's strong, but it's not in strength. It's if you believe that Bucky should be Captain America, then you're the person who gave John Walker the shield.
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty much.
Yes, that's how I feel about the show. It's like, and a lot of people. You also obviously have a lot of people online being, oh, but this is supposed to be fun action stuff. Why are you giving me all this politics and shit? It's like, oh, just first of all, I haven't read a lot of comics, but comics are political.
Oh, they're more political than this.
They're way more political than the movies or the shows are. So, like, aren't you the same kind of guy who goes on the internet being annoyed that they're not faithful to the comic books? So, because if you are, comics are really political. Second, like, they're doing a story about black men in America.
Yeah. If you're not enjoying the show,
how do you want to do that without politics?
And if you don't enjoy that, don't watch it. Because
here's the thing for you.
Because here's the thing with the MCU, you don't really have to watch everything. You can skip so much. Like you can skip so much. And sometimes you're gonna be like, oh, that was weird. I didn't know that thing. Like I have a friend Hugo, who watched Infinity War before he watched Thor Ragnarok.
Oh my
and
god!
He was like, so where's Thor's hammer and where's his eye and where's his hair? What happened? And he said like he laughed it off. He said like, oh, it didn't matter for me in the story because it was like, okay, something happened. I don't need to know it because this isn't the story that's being told. And he was also and he was like, where's Asgard?
Yeah, and the fans are the opposite of that. They only care about plot and having to be like, the plot is all that matters. And it's like, whenever they actually, these shows or movies and this is true for every fandom, by the way, it's not just Marvel, like even with Star Wars, it's the same. Whenever these things that are big pop culture things try to do anything deeper than, oh, this is fun action, people are going to be mad because it's too political or it's boring or it's all about trauma and I don't care about that. I want to see Wanda shooting balls. It's like, I want to see the devil. It's like, fuck, Jesus Christ, can you not enjoy a story for being a good story?
For what the story is trying to tell you. Like, it's not the story you want it to be. It's the story it's trying to tell. And I feel like, and not just like with this, like with video games, with comics, with books, with movies, with TV shows. More often than not, when people critique stuff, they're not actually critiquing what they're watching. They're critiquing and saying, "Oh, I wish the story was this." It's like okay, but what do you think the story did well or not well?
Yeah,
that's how you're supposed to
shit what you want. You're not the writer.
Yeah, thank God for that, because some of the shit people say, I'm so happy these nerds don't write. Oh my God, some of these nerds, Hugo. Some of these nerds are insane with the stories that they want to tell, because their story. Okay, let's go. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Are you ready? So Falcon, he takes the shield. Is like, no, Bucky, you should have the shield. Okay.
Yeah.
And then the Flag Smashers appear. and they beat the Flag Smashers, and then they go over to the fucking thing, and they go to the fucking thing, and they're like, "Oh, we're in Metropole. Oh, who's that guy? Oh, it's Wolverine. Bucky, you have to stop him. Oh shit! But why is Wolverine evil now? Oh, it's Mephisto. Oh shit! Is this setting up something? Oh no! Somebody's calling Wolverine. It's Peter Parker. Is this connecting to the next? That's how the shows and movies would. I swear to God, that's what
Yeah,
people want for
they just
some
want
reason.
cameos,
They just
and
want cameos.
yeah,
Go watch Zack. Like, I like Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's not
yeah,
how you're supposed to tell a story. Because you
yeah,
cannot introduce the Martian Manhunter halfway through the movie. That was the weirdest thing ever. But
yeah,
I guess those kinds of nerds enjoy that shit because they can be
yeah,
like, I know who the Martian Manhunter is because I saw the cartoons in the 2000s. Who gives a fucking shit who
yeah.
he is?
That's who
He's
gives
not
a
a
shit.
character. He's
Exactly.
a thing that appears and leaves again.
Right. So yeah, we've ranted about the fanboys, and we'll do it again because we
Yeah,
like doing that.
yeah.
Because fuck them. Um, yeah. What's okay? I think a lot. The last thing we can talk about. Um, overall, I think we're both pretty positive on the show.
It
I
gets
really enjoyed it.
in my new thing I'm trying to do, which I'm calling my new scale, which is great, good, bad.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I can do the 5-star thing. It's confusing to
Oh,
me.
fine.
So great, good, bad. This is a great for me.
Good.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah,
And yeah, for me, I did a little review on Letterboxd because for some reason these shows are on Letterboxd. I
yeah.
don't know
Because they're
why.
gonna be one season thingies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think because Letterboxd has it's a movie service,
yeah,
but they also have one season
mm,
TV shows like
yeah.
mini series. They also include on the service
And
for some reason,
Evangelion.
and Evangelion for some reason because it's one season. It is one season, so there you go. But Evangelion, we had to bring it up.
Yeah, we had to
Uh,
break it up. Sorry.
so it's fun for me because I can
Yeah,
rank all my Marvel movies and shows together, and
yeah,
I enjoy that. But whatever.
yeah.
And yeah, for me it was like a 4 out of 5 stars because I think where it has the same problems that I have with a lot of Marvel things. It's that for me, the pacing isn't always perfect. Sometimes it's just kind of drags. Sometimes it's too fast. The action is hit and miss. Some action sequences are really good. Some action sequences are like, oh, this is just a mess, and I have no idea what's happening. It also there's always like a few cheesy moments where I'm like, oh, I think they're doing a reference here, but
Mm,
I don't know, and I'm not fully on. I don't know what's happening.
yeah.
Uh, but still, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I think the good parts are absolutely fantastic. And I think it also was more consistently good than WandaVision. Like some of the stuff in the early parts of WandaVision is genuinely some of the favorite weird,
Mm,
interesting things that this MCU has done. But I think it's more of on a like filmmaking point of view. Like they've done some weird, interesting narrative devices that they haven't done anywhere else. It was
mm.
really weird and cool. So I really enjoyed that. But I think this show is way more consistently good and it sticks the landing a little bit better. Um, so yeah, good show. Um, Last thing we can talk about is what's next. What's next for these characters, and how do we feel about like the MCU as a whole, kind of going forward, right?
Yeah. So for me, at least, the MCU going forward, I kind of like the fact that, for example, I'm just sitting here thinking. So we lost 3 Avengers in Endgame because we lost
Basically, yeah.
Captain America, we lost Iron Man, we lost Black Widow. So that's 3 Avengers down. I guess. So I guess like what it seems to me at least like they're building a new team of Avengers by doing this like it's kind of like phase. I feel like I'm watching Phase One over again actually. If I had to explain
Yeah,
it right now,
to
it
some extent,
to
yes.
some
But it
yeah,
makes sense
it
because,
make
like,
yeah the big
Endgame was
yeah
such a giant
yeah
ending that it's good that they're starting from scratch and really building up stuff slowly. That's
yeah, and
good.
that's how it feels again. It feels like the excitement, like
Mhm.
when you suddenly realize, especially as a comic book fan, where you suddenly realize, wait, these movies are connected. What? And I have that feeling again, that excitement of watching something. It's good, and it's setting up things that can be interesting because I have no idea where they're going now. Because we don't have,
Yeah,
we were building towards Thanos at the end of the first Avengers, which is
yeah,
maybe a bit too long to set up a villain, but
Yeah,
yeah, because people were angry at in Age of Ultron, why didn't you just do Thanos? And it's like, who cares?
yeah. Who gives a shit? Yeah,
No,
whatever.
for
But
me,
regardless of
mm,
that,
regardless of that, for me at least, what I'm excited for is like the MCU being different, because having a black Captain America is different.
yeah.
Having so one of the next movies that's coming out is Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. We
Mhm.
can talk about the trailer for a bit if you want. The teaser, as they call it. It was a trailer. Come on.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
2 minutes
That's a
long, and we
trailer. Yeah.
see like there's
Yeah.
plot being set up and there's action sequences. I guess it's a teaser.
Shang-Chi for me is the one movie where for once I'm looking at the action sequences in the trailer going like, oh, this
Yes,
actually looks good. this
finally,
it's
finally, yeah,
Gene Park, who I stand for life on Twitter. He's a games writer at the Washington Post. He's hilarious on Twitter. Go follow him at the Gene Park. I love that dude. And he was talking about, oh, I'm actually surprised the fact that we have a fighting sequence where you can watch their whole bodies. And it's like, oh, I never
yeah,
thought about that. Yeah, Shang-Chi looks great. I like. I've never actually read a Shang-Chi comic. He always like appears in comics. Like one comic I'll always remember Shang-Chi in is him is Spider-Man losing his spider sense, and then Shang-Chi trains him, and they invent the Spider Fu fighting style, which is dumb
amazing.
dumb comic book shit. I love it. Or when Iron Man, when he joins the Avengers, and Iron Man's like, "So what kind of weapons should I build for you?" And he's like, "Tony, who needs more than these?" And he shows up his fists. I'm like, oh, this dude is so cool. Shang-Chi for me is like the breath of fresh air because it's different as well. Like a kung
Yeah,
fu martial artist master.
yeah.
I'm
Oh,
excited for that.
it also the action sequences look like they actually did great
Yeah,
kung
yeah.
fu choreography. They
You
look like
have to
Jackie
do it. Yeah,
Chan. They
yeah.
look like Jackie Chan movies, and I'm so in.
It needs to be that. It
Yeah,
needs to, and it has Aquafina. So of course I'm gonna watch it because I love Aquafina.
she's
Aquafina,
fantastic. Yeah,
she's fantastic
in
as a
everything she's
rapper,
in.
as an actress. She's just great.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, oh, and Ronnie Chang is in it as well. The dude from
yeah.
The Daily Show, hilarious guy. So as soon as I saw the trailer, I was like, oh yeah, Ronnie Chang is in this one as well. Great. It's Crazy Rich Asians, but with superheroes. Great movie
Kung
as well,
fu,
by
I
the way.
guess.
Yeah, yeah, with kung fu, I guess. Yeah. No, for me at least, I want to see. Yeah, I want to see like new, different Avengers, and I feel like that's what they're building up towards. New and different
Oh,
Avengers.
so
And what's up
I'm looking at the cast
for
and
Shang-Chi?
for Shang-Chi, and
Yeah.
apparently Tony Leung is in it, who is a very famous uh, Hong Kong actor. He's in a lot of Wong Kar-wai films. He's in Hard
Hmm?
Boiled. He's in Hero. Uh, I like him. He's famous for his roles in The Mood for Love and Chungking Express. Shout out to Jackson who loves that movie.
What
Cool.
was
Yeah,
his
I didn't
name?
know. He's called Tony Leung.
Oh,
Leung.
yeah.
Leung. Written obviously in
Yeah, he looked like the
Western
bad guy in
alphabet.
the trailer, this dude, right? Isn't he the
Yeah,
guy with the...
he looks kind of what's the guy called? Like the Mandarin a little bit.
Do
I
you
don't
think
know
he's the
if that's
real
the
Mandarin?
I'm not sure. He could be.
Because
He
they
could
kind of
be.
teased that, oh, he wasn't actually the real
Yeah.
Mandarin. Because,
Yeah.
Hugo,
We'll
I don't know
see.
if you've heard, but they've actually been teasing Shang-Chi since the first Iron Man movie. Did you know this?
Shut up. Shut up.
Sorry.
Let's not go on another rant about Marvel fanboys and how they don't understand storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool trailer as well.
Yeah.
But
But
finish your
my point
thoughts.
like that, and then we have Eternals coming out
Hmm.
as well, which is made by
Oh,
the director of
I'm
fucking
so
Nomad
excited.
Land, so that's gonna be
I'm not, yeah,
interesting. Yeah,
I'm so excited for Eternals.
yeah. So it seems to be like Marvel's like doubling down on let's make something different, and
Hmm.
that's what the thing I respect about Marvel the most. Like Kevin Feige, Marvel Studios, when I say Marvel, not Marvel the company, as like
Yeah, yeah,
studios specifically, is the fact that they keep trying to do like different shit.
yeah. Hmm.
And sometimes it's still like a bit samey. Like we can't all get over the fact there's that MCU vibe that you just can't really shake.
Yeah,
But I really, really hope like it just goes weirder yet. Because
yeah.
the movies people remember the most are Guardians of the Galaxy, for example.
Hmm.
Do you think I knew who they were? I'm a comic book nerd. I was like, I think that they were in that one Avengers comic I read a while ago. I don't know who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. Who the fuck are these guys?
Yeah.
And now they're like household names for Marvel. Like Rocket and Groot are like household names. So I'm looking forward to that, and I really hope we're gonna see more of Captain America, and I hope Captain America shows up in. Yeah, I'm gonna call him Captain America now. He's
Oh
my
yeah.
Cap, and I hope Cap shows up in the next Avengers movie, whatever form that may take.
Yeah,
And
I
that's like the
think
next time we're gonna see him. I feel like that was his
he
phase one
he
movie or
should.
whatever.
Yeah, I think it's not impossible that we get something else with him before we go to an Avengers film. Like there is, I think it is possible that they do a Captain America film. I
Hmm.
think it is possible that they do a season 2 of this show. But they do call it from the beginning Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Or maybe
Um,
just Captain America
maybe just
colon.
Captain America colon something.
Because I've seen people talk about how, you know how, so Disney apparently sent WandaVision in for the Emmys because they were like,
Yeah,
let's try, maybe we can win for best limited series,
yeah,
which is fine, whatever.
yeah.
But for me at least,
They
and it's a,
won't, by the way.
yeah, it won't like, but it's okay. Just let them have their fun. Like that's how I
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
about
sure.
it. We know they're not gonna win. No need to, because people get angry. They're like, why did you send into the Emmys? Like, who gives a shit? Shut up. It's an
Yeah,
award show. Who gives a fuck?
yeah. That's
But
the vibe of this whole episode. It's just like, shut up. Just
shut up.
it's
Who
fine.
gives a fuck? Yeah,
Don't chill out.
this
Yeah,
isn't the thing you should be angry about. Like, use your
yeah.
energy somewhere else. But no, what's it called? What was it saying? Sorry. Yeah.
WandaVision and the Emmys.
I saw like a headline that was like, "Oh, shatters all hope for season 2." It's like, and I saw a comment on Twitter that made me laugh so much, and the comment was, "What should they do in season 2? Kill Vision for the fifth time?" Like, what did you expect? But they could make a Scarlet Witch show. Just call it
Yeah,
Scarlet Witch.
absolutely,
You don't need to do like
absolutely.
Captain America and the Winter Soldier season 2. No, call it something else, just like what they do with the movies. Because these are, for all intents and purposes, long movies.
Yeah,
There's the only one, like the only movie that's called 2 and 3 are Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
and I guess Thor 2 as well. No, it's Thor:
No,
The Dark
Dark
World.
World.
It's not
Yeah,
called the sequel.
they're gonna
Yeah, yeah,
use
yeah.
that naming scheme going forward.
I think
Because
I think
maybe
that's
the
smart as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
because
because
maybe the
numbers
next
just
confusing, especially when
yeah,
you have all these different stories. It's gonna be like extra confusing. Like, oh, you have to watch Captain America 4 before watching Avengers 2 or something
yeah.
dumb.
And
Like, it's like,
I
what does
think
that mean?
the smart thing of this is also because like each part of this is an episode in the grand MCU thing.
Yeah,
So you're really watching MCU episode 25
yeah.
when you're
Yeah,
watching
because
Falcon
it's
and the
just
Winter
like a
Soldier.
long movie for all intents and
Yeah,
purposes. Like, I like how every time I have my pencil, it like censors it because it looks like I'm holding something you're not supposed to see. It's just a pencil. Look, it's just a pencil. It's not something.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, for all you audio listeners, I held a pen and I'm using like this blurring technology and it blurred the pen. So
Yeah,
it looks like I'm holding something that's not supposed to be shown on YouTube or Twitch.
but we swear it's not a dildo.
It's not
We
a dildo.
promise it's not a
It's
dildo.
a pen.
Yeah.
It's a pencil.
Anyway,
Yes.
I think that's our thoughts for the MCU. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We talked about Cyberpunk. We talked about Disco Elysium.
Oh, before that, one last thing.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I'm so excited because Hugo's gonna be so mad at me when I say this, but
Okay.
so the cinemas are gonna open next month here in Denmark. So that means I can watch Black Widow in theaters. I don't have to watch it on Disney Plus because I really didn't want to pay extra to watch it on Disney Plus because I was like, I'm already like, if I didn't have to pay for the subscription as well, but now like, oh, I can watch it
Yeah.
in theaters and
Um,
have a fun experience with that.
I don't know when theaters are opening here. If they are, I hope I get to go watch some Marvel stuff.
You should come to Denmark. I won't tell anyone. Just come.
That's not that easy. Yeah. So yeah, theaters aside, rip Italy, I guess. Rest in peace, Italy, as Christian
Yes.
says in chat, even though we're supposed to not acknowledge it, but it was funny.
He has had some like funny takes in chat during this. Like there
Yeah,
were multiple
we'll talk
times
about
where
them.
I looked and then like just chuckled for a bit, like don't read it. Sorry.
Okay, we'll read them later.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our episode 5 of I'm So Tired. You can find the show on YouTube by just looking for iDubai, which is Islam's YouTube channel. We upload a video version there, or you can find the audio version of the show either at anchor.fm/I'm so tired, or just like searching for I'm so tired on your podcast service of choice, which is probably the easiest way.
Yeah.
You can follow us for stupid movie and games takes at Hugo_Pinay and iDubai again, and you can of course follow Islam on Twitch because he's the number one Denmark streamer.
He's the number one Denmark streamer. Exactly.
Denmark
That's me.
Danish streamer. Yeah, I don't know what happened.
Denmark's number one streamer. That's my title.
Denmark's number one streamer. So English is a second language for both of us. So
Yes.
sometimes we fuck up, but that's okay. So yeah, that's the end of our show. And say it with me, everyone.
I'm so tired.
I'm so tired,
man. Bye.